targeted on Jewish people. That is something which, as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, hasn't happened for many years or for decades or generations here in Britain under many leaders. Directed terror attacks. This is not about an anti-Semitic verbal attack on a Jewish person, right? This is a terrorist attack. Last week, Wednesday, 2 people who I was with them in hospital throughout the week, thankfully they're home recovering, were moments of a way of being dead, right? It's a miracle that they are alive. So he has to ask himself, has he done wrong? Or what hasn't he done, which other leaders have done, to take this issue head on?
And we know the Gaza war is inflamed opinion. And we know that some of the people chanting and marching every Saturday at marches that I would ban, but it would take me a long time to come to that point, but I would ban them because they're spreading hatred against your community. But could that be in isolation a factor in why so many people... we've had 3 terror attacks in, the space of 6 months against your community. Can it just be that? What else is it?
I think this is part of the conversation the Prime Minister needs to have in this think tank meeting he's having this morning. That is a direct link between those attacks and those Palestinian marchers. Now, it's important to differentiate, because I sympathise with people who stand in solidarity and they want to march for the Palestinian cause. I understand them 100%. But what they have to realise, and I think they fail to realise, is the fact that those marches are being hijacked by groups of anti-Semites who incite hate and violence against Jewish people on those marches. So until they realise that, then there is a genuine conversation to have about banning those marches. They have to come up with a plan how they can conduct those marches without having anti-Semites joining them, using that platform to target Jewish people. Because all it takes is for one person to leave that march and actually execute what they chant on those marches against Jewish people. All it takes is one person to do that, and you can have, Jewish people dead, God forbid.
And do you believe the police still turn a blind eye to casual anti-Semitism? I say casual in the sense, I know it's appalling, but casual anti-Semitism in the sense of verbal abuse. They just turn a blind eye to it. It's a lot easier just to ignore it.
So, yes and no. There was a climate where police officers who were working around Jewish neighbourhoods did have a very cold response to anti-Semitism. They never really took it so serious. I have to say, the police in those areas where we live in the Jewish communities do take anti-Semitism really serious. They do respond to it really serious, as much as they possibly can. But it's important to remember their hands are tied. They can only do what the government allows them to do and what the funding they have. If they want to put out extra resources or extra assets in the community to protect the Jewish community, it all depends if they've got that funding. If the government support them and give them the funding, then they could do it. They want to do it. The officers want to protect the community, but it really depends on what support they get from central government.
And we've seen Sir Mark Rowley call for that additional funding last week. What do you think the role of the universities is in this? Because they're one of the groups, higher education leaders are one of the groups invited to Downing Street today. And I was talking to some Jewish students a couple of years ago, and they were talking about the kind of attacks and verbal abuse they were facing at that time on a daily basis, walking into tutorials and other students forming a Heil Hitler salute as they walked in, that kind of constant abuse. What do you think the role that universities could play is in this? Could they help tackle anti-Semitism on campus?
Absolutely. I think on the university campus has been one of the weakest places where anti-Semitism has been dealt with properly. I know that the DFE, the Department of Education and the different university ministers have been trying to have this conversation, but I think it was a very lukewarm conversation. They really didn't take it on so serious, because if you look at the statistics, a lot of these attacks sort of happen on those grounds. And I think that's where there is a very weak point which really needs to be tackled.
Just finally, is this summit going to make any difference?
It remains to be seen. I mean, till now, all we saw was, as they call it in the community, a solidarity salad. That's what they call it. That's known as the solidarity salad.
Right.
We know exactly word for word that's going to come out of his mouth. And
standing shoulder to shoulder.
yeah, I mean, we know there was a challenge in the community who knows the words better, but everyone knows it so well by now. It remains to be seen. I really hope Starmer will take this on very serious, similar to what Kemi did yesterday, that kind of approach. And I know she did similar to what Farage did and Richard Tice. When they came to Golden Screen, they spoke what they believe, and that's exactly what needs to happen. If he's going to try to appease and satisfy people, then we're never going to have this problem resolved. So we really need a proper, strong approach from Downing Street, and let's hope that this summit is going to bring that.
Absolutely. Levi Shapiro.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks so much for joining us. Now, still ahead, one more boat and arrivals will hit a grim arrival of, can you believe this, 200,000 since the crisis began. Another 800 turned up over the weekend.
But up next, it's 20 years since Madeleine McCann went missing in Portugal. Find out why the police now want one of the prime suspects to be put on trial in Britain.
This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
If you're heading to northern Italy or southern France, then expect some thunderstorms over the next few days. But for most of the Mediterranean, it's set to stay fair and dry and mostly sunny. Although temperatures will be a little bit below par for the time of year, it should still feel pleasantly warm in the sunshine across Portugal and Spain. We do run into those heavy showers, though, for the Balkans and particularly northern parts of Italy. But further south, many parts of Greece and Turkey will be turning increasingly dry over the next few days, with some sunshine around as well. And temperatures around average, so feeling warm in the sunshine.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
He was born in Stratford-upon-Avon in 1564 into a prosperous family and moved to London sometime in the late 1500s. The bard wrote 38 plays, 2 narrative poems and 154 sonnets. Speaking to GB News in 2025, director at the Shakespeare Birthplace Trust Professor Charlotte Scott said the success of Shakespeare across the globe has helped to extend his influence.
We feel very passionately and proudly about Shakespeare's works and the way in which they have become significant across the globe in different ways. And Shakespeare is, of course, constantly being reinvented through adaptation and theatre. And that's wonderful, because that allows us to return to Shakespeare as a kind of agile source for further creativity.
Credited with over 1,700 words in the English language, his influence creeps into every part of our lives, and his works are still recited to the masses. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, by opposing, end them, to die, to sleep, no more. Or at least it's something like that. 462 years on since his birth, how do people in his hometown of Stratford view Britain's most famous playwright?
I just think it's really important still to learn about him, because you never stop learning about him, do you? There's so much to take in about him.
I think it's useful to learn about. I think it's more interesting for adults to learn about than children, to be honest, because we learn more when we're actually interested in it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB Newsroom to every corner of Britain.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 11 minutes to 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, the Metropolitan Police want to talk to the Madeleine McCann suspect, Christian Bruckner. They want him to face a UK trial.
Well, this comes ahead of the 20th anniversary of Madeleine McCann's disappearance next year.
The only thing that stands in the way, unfortunately, is the German constitution, which prevents the extradition of its citizens to non-EU countries. That's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really?
I don't think it was probably designed for Britain, that law, but it would have been a pre-Brexit rule. Well, Jim Gamble is a former police officer and child safety expert, and he joins us now. Mr Gamble, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. What do you make of these efforts to bring the suspect here to the UK to stand trial?
Well, I think it's extremely encouraging. The German prosecutors were adamant when they were pursuing this particular suspect that they had the right person in their sights. And there was clearly a piece of their evidential jigsaw that was missing. But the German prosecutor was very, very focused. And you can understand why. This individual has a profile that fits, and the circumstantial evidence that surrounded his proximity to the crime scene at the time was such that he has been, for the last number of years, the prime suspect in this. And of course, people are innocent until proven guilty. Scotland Yard have been looking at this case since Operation Grange came in, and that followed the report that I did for the Home Office that recommended transferring responsibility in the UK to New Scotland Yard, because they've got the capacity and the competence, the experience for this. So they have been looking at the evidence before that this individual was a suspect. They've looked at it since, and they've continued, I'm sure, to take a very forensic look at the evidence that the German police and prosecutor have gathered and combined that with their own. So I am optimistic. I mean, New Scotland Yard don't just jump at things. This will be a considered position. And if they are seeking the extradition of this individual, then I think that's nothing but good news, especially in the aftermath of the anniversary that's just passed.
And Mr Gamble, how concerned should we be that because we're not in the EU now, we don't have an extradition arrangement with Germany? If the German police think there is sufficient evidence there, I presume the authorities would do the right thing and deport him, because the offence happened here in Britain. It happened in Portugal, it didn't happen in Germany, there's not going to be a trial in Portugal, so it would be best if there was a trial here.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's an absence of an appetite in Germany to pursue this suspect. They were extremely diligent and indeed relentless in their pursuit of him. Leaving Brexit means you haven't got the European arrest warrant that you had, and that was a fast-track system. But that doesn't rule out extradition in its entirety. It would just be more cumbersome and it would be potentially more difficult, but it can happen. So there are a number of options that would allow this to happen. There's the use of Interpol and a red notice to have the individual detained and held until an extradition process can take place. So I think, given that the German authorities were so focused on this particular suspect, given that they couldn't meet the final evidential hurdle in their own jurisdiction, I would be really disappointed if they didn't do everything they could to facilitate an extradition, regardless of the fact that it won't be via the European arrest warrant.
And just briefly, Mr Gamble, do you think the police here have any new evidence that they're hoping would convict the suspect if he were to be brought to trial?
Well, they wouldn't get the agreement of the Crown Prosecution Service, or anyone else for that matter, to issue extradition proceedings if they did not have an extremely strong case. You don't bring people before the court unless there is a belief that the evidence is so overwhelming that you're likely to achieve conviction. And I think, knowing what we know circumstantially about this suspect, that a telephone that can be attributed to him was in proximity to the apartment that the McCanns were using within about 30 minutes.
Mr. Gamble, I'm so sorry. We are going to have to leave it there. I do apologise. We have run out of time, unfortunately.
There is a statement from the police which says, as part of ongoing inquiries, remain in close working discussion with policing colleagues in Germany and Portugal. We will continue to pursue any viable line of inquiry. Desperate for the family, the parents.
Absolutely. What a horrible reminder. But coming
Madeleine
up next, Donald Trump has threatened to blow Iranian ships off the face of the earth. That's all coming up after your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. It's a bright start out there for most of us, but cloud will bubble up as the day goes on, and for all of us, certainly feeling cooler than it has done over the bank holiday weekend. So as I mentioned, plenty of brightness around first thing this morning, but showers already developing across northern and western parts of the country. And as the day goes on, the cloud will bubble up almost everywhere across the UK. Sunshine at a premium during the middle of the day, but most of us generally stay in dry, but there will still be a few showers around. And note the temperature is certainly down, still potentially reaching the high teens though across the far south of England. Into the afternoon rush hour, and actually things will begin to cheer up again across parts of Scotland. Some sunshine returning here. Still a few showers around, especially across the northern and western Isles. And a very similar story for Northern Ireland. Sunshine returning here, but unfortunately for the main bulk of England and Wales, we will hang on to some cloud and again some spits and spots of rain, although it may well be a fairly cheery end to the day down towards the far southwest of England. Overnight, we will see a lot of the cloud begin to clear away to the south. That will allow plenty of clear skies, especially across more northern parts of the country, and that will allow us to see a fairly widespread frost to develop in the countryside, so gardeners and growers beware of that. Further south, temperatures probably hanging on into mid-single figures in the countryside. So we start Wednesday off on a fairly bright note across the east. Further west we will see some showers, but as the day goes on we will start to pick up some cloud across many eastern areas, maybe some spits and spots of rain too. So come the afternoon, best of the sunshine more towards the western half of the country, although some rain returning up across the very far northwest of Scotland. Temperatures on Wednesday down on Tuesday, potentially only up to the mid-teens across the very far south of England.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Traffic on the M80 northbound at Junction 7 Hags is restricted due to a broken down vehicle. The M4 westbound is congested between junctions 29 Castleton and 32 Corryton. In Sunderland, A19 southbound has one lane closed between A11231 and A183, with normal traffic expected shortly after 10 this morning. Manchester's M56 eastbound at Junction 5 faces around 10-minute delays. In Northamptonshire, the A45 westbound has one lane shut after a collision. And on the trains, there is major disruption on the Gatwick Express between Haywards Heath and Gatwick Airport. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
There's a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in cash to be won. Cash to spend on anything you like. That's like having over £6,000 extra to spend each month for a whole year. You could spend it on a bucket list holiday, treats for all of the family, or just save it for a rainy day. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Tuesday the 5th of May. We are live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
So, a crackdown on anti-Semitism. Might have heard that before. The Prime Minister comes out fighting, warning Iran that any attempts to destabilise British society will not be tolerated, and he's vowed to stamp out Jewish hatred across Britain.
It's our job to make sure that we absolutely deal with the roots of anti-Semitism and extremism. That is what we will do.
Strait of Hormuz standoff continues. President Trump says US forces have shot down another 7 Iranian fast boats as tensions in the Middle East escalate again.
Let them have a nuclear weapon, or you'd have problems like nobody would believe.
And the McCann suspect. Detectives are pushing to bring the Madeleine McCann prime suspect to Britain from Germany and put him on trial. It's 20 years since she went missing.
And border disorder. Small boat arrivals are expected to hit 200,000 today, as only 7,612 have been deported. Mark White has an exclusive for us.
Yes, human rights charities are condemning the French police, who've adopted a more robust approach, now slashing small boats, even when they're in the water and even when they've got dozens of migrants on board.
Glad to hear it. After the Prime Minister pushes for very good relations with the EU at that summit in Armenia, we'll tell you why today is being branded Europe Day.
Keir Starmer tries to draw us closer to the European Union, but do voters want it? Is it betraying that vote from 2016?
And more on that cruise virus horror. A hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship has killed 3 people, and 1 British crew member requires urgent care.
Oh, the glitz, the glamour, but celebrities are boycotting the Met Gala over Jeff Bezos' involvement, but there were still some unique outfits on display.
Can't see you in those photos.
We do appreciate what they do for us when we do come over here, because they treat us like royalty.
And a moment of honour and remembrance as World War II veterans are in the Netherlands to lead Liberation Day celebrations.
$200,000. That's a shocking figure. That's the size of a major city. Yeah. And where are they all? How many have been deported? 7,000.
7,000. A tiny 3.5%. Less than 4% of those people who arrived here illegally. No papers. A lot of them. We don't know who they are. We don't know whether they have criminal records at home or in the rest of Europe.
Or whether they're terrorists.
I mean, when this problem first started in 2018, of course, there'd been a problem on lorries for some time. Much harder to detect, or at least not as visible to observers. But since 2018, huge numbers have been coming across all the time. Successive governments try to do something about it. Nothing really has been done.
And the gangs get ever cleverer. A fifth are now arriving via Belgium, even though that's a longer trip. It's obviously that's an even easier way to avoid the French police.
Absolutely.
Not that the French police are trying very hard.
No, and they're taking lots of money for doing not very much. But it's so frustrating because there are clearly things that governments could do that would help the problem very, very quickly. Detain and deport, remove the kind of incentives that people receive when they get here. Why is that so difficult?
I don't get it. As ever, tell us what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Sam Francis.
Andrew, Miriam, thank you very much. Good morning to you from the newsroom. The top story this hour. Well, Sir Keir Starmer is calling for a whole-of-society response to anti-Semitism after the Golders Green terror attack. The Prime Minister says attacks on British Jews are a crisis for all of us and a test of our values. He's meeting senior figures from business, civil society, health, culture and higher education, urging them to act at pace. It comes after 2 Jewish men were stabbed in Golders Green last week in an attack police are treating as terrorism. Sir Keir Starmer says it's not enough to just say Britain stands with Jewish communities, but the country has to show it.
My thoughts, I think all of that.
Iran, meanwhile, says fresh clashes with the United States in the Gulf show there is no military solution to the war. The confrontation follows American efforts to escort commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, one of the key routes for global energy supplies. Tehran warns that US forces risk being dragged into what it calls a quagmire. But Donald Trump has issued his own warning overnight, telling Fox News that if any US ships are targeted, Iran will be blown off the face of the earth. Here, almost 900 illegal migrants have crossed the Channel since Friday, taking total arrivals within one boatload of 200,000 people since the crisis began. The surge comes despite the rate of crossings being lower than at the same point last year. Footage shows French police taking a tougher approach, slashing dinghies as they try to leave beaches in northern France. French officers have previously warned the puncturing of boats in the water can be too dangerous, with charities and human rights groups criticising the tactic. Though supporters say stronger action is needed to stop the crossings before boats reach UK waters. This morning, Housing Minister Steve Reed spoke to the Breakfast programme here on GB News, and he claimed that the migrant crisis is a result of the previous Conservative government's failure.
The previous government was just putting people in hotels. They weren't being removed from the country if they had no right to be here. That encouraged more people to come. This government has removed now over 60,000 people who had no right to be here. We are closing down the hotels that were full of asylum seekers, opened by the Conservative government, and some of the Conservative ministers who did that now sit in Reform UK. They opened the hotels. We are closing the hotels, and we're able to do that because we are removing people who have no right to be here.
In other news this morning, the head of NHS England is urging more people to volunteer with the health service. Sir Jim Mackey says volunteers are part of the DNA of the National Health Service, supporting patients, staff and local communities. NHS England estimates around 70,000 volunteers are already helping services across the country at any one time. The healthcare charity says volunteering schemes have supported more than 1 million people over the past 3 years. Health leaders say volunteers are not replacing doctors and nurses, but they do help to free them up for more complex work. The prison officer crisis has been described as draining the lifeblood from the prison system. Author and filmmaker Chris Atkins, who spent 8 months in HMP Wandsworth, says experienced officers are being lost and replaced by younger and less prepared staff. New figures show prison officer experience levels are now at their lowest since 2010. Campaigners warn inexperienced staffing can lead to more lockdowns, less rehabilitation and greater risk of violence. But the Ministry of Justice says it inherited a system in crisis and insists pay and staffing are improving. And Manchester Airport has been ranked the worst in the UK for flight delays. Analysis of Civil Aviation Authority data shows departures were delayed by an average of 19 minutes last year. That is longer than any other major UK airport, despite a slight improvement on the year before. Which Travel says passengers may struggle to book with confidence if performance does not improve. But Manchester Airport says many delays are caused by issues beyond its control, including weather, air traffic control disruption and restrictions over conflict zones. Those are the 10 o'clock headlines. For now, I'll be back with you shortly. Next, though, a look at the morning's markets.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Just coming up to 9 minutes past 10, the markets for you. The pound will buy $1.3540 and €1.1585. The price of gold is £3,365 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is currently at 10,273 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
A lot of people have been getting in touch, Miriam. I think they were quite intrigued by the Kemi Badenoch bust-up with the... I wonder if we can have a listen to that. The Kemi Badenoch bust-up with somebody talking about anti-Semitism, saying that she was pandering to the far right. Have a listen to this Kemi Badenoch.
It very much is about Jewish people, and you can say all that you like, but this is how the 1930s started, with people pretending not to see what was happening in front of them. I am not blind. I can see. No. I'm telling people the truth, and they will always know that I stand behind Jewish people and I stand for them. I'm sorry, but I disagree with you. You just have to accept that. Yes, that's too bad. That's too bad. People know where I stand, and I'm not going to be intimidated. I'm not going. No, I am the right. I am the right, yes. And I'm very proud of being on the right. I'm not pandering to the far right. What I am doing is supporting... No. What I'm doing is supporting Jewish people from the sort of ignorant people like you put out there. And I will never be intimidated by it.
Wonderful irony of Tory leader being accused of pandering to the right.
I know, yes, and she says, I am the right.
Political spectrum, you've got the Labour on the left, the Liberal Democrats mishmash in somewhere in the middle, Tories on the right, Reform on the right.
Exactly.
I mean, you know... That would have been some left-wing agitator taking on. Fair play to her. She's stood up to her.
I think people want to see that, taking on the argument, remaining polite and respectful, but taking the argument head on. And lots of our viewers very appreciative of her stance. Megan says, well said, Kemi Badenoch, strong response. Linda says, I will not be voting for the Tories again, but I must say a well done to Kemi for standing up to the left-wing heckler. Cynthia says, very proud of Kemi, clearly standing up to the woman. Somebody else says, well done, Kemi. Other politicians need to stand up to hecklers instead of dipping their heads and running away shielded by police. It's a good point, because when these things happen at conferences and at staged events, security tends to rush on, don't they? But this is a bit more impromptu.
Yeah. I mean, that's what local election campaigning is all about, meeting the people.
Absolutely.
And if you get shouted, you get shouted. I always think it's a badge of honour to get an egg thrown at you.
Has it ever happened to you, Andrew?
Yes.
Really?
I was there when Cameron was egged in 2010.
Yeah.
Really?
In Cornwall, and I collected the bits of egg up.
As you do.
As you do. And of course, the job is to try and find the person who chucked it, interview them.
To find out what they're upset about.
I mean, Nigel Farage, and he's criticised a lot, but he does go out and meet people.
He does.
And he risks having milk chucked on him, but he gets credit for risking it.
But I think sometimes they don't mind. It's
good.
It's very irritating because you've got to get your suit clean and all the rest of it. But, I mean, do you remember when John Prescott famously in the night?
Punched
egg in his face. He gave him a right hook.
And what did Tony Blair say?
That's John.
That's John. John will be John. But the point here is, I spent all of 2024 going around with these politicians. They just meet employees with their bosses watching. It's not real people. I mean, if the boss is watching, you're on your best behaviour. It takes a risk to do that, and Kemi Badenoch, I think, wins that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of politics, it has been revealed that Brussels is demanding that Britain pays up to £1 billion a year for closer EU access.
This is called our EU reset. So yesterday we had the Prime Minister, Never Hear Keir, as he's living up to that reputation, with EU bigwigs. If you're listening on the radio, he's with Ursula von der Leyen, the head of the European Commission. Today is being dubbed Europe Day because Nick Thomas-Symonds, who's a minister in charge of the Europe reset, he's making a speech, the Europe minister's making a speech, and the EU ambassador's making a speech.
Big party today, Andrew. You going to go to it?
No, do you know mine says you got lost in the post, Chris?
Well, as you've already gathered, our GB News political editor, Christopher Hope, is with us in the studio. Now you've been formally introduced, Chris.
Sorry.
Tell us about Europe Day.
It's a big day. It's a day when everyone's... there's events later. I think it has been previous performances of Beethoven and the like. But what it means politically is this government is trying to get closer to the European Union. We're signing up for a £78 billion EU loan scheme, very good for relations with the European Union, we're told by Sir Keir Starmer, for defence jobs and the like. But it draws into, I think, sharp focus the debate which will happen later this month when we have a big EU-European Union summit, UK summit, when we may do more talk about getting closer to the EU with freedom of movement for 18 to 30-year-olds. But the question is, how much will we pay to rejoin? Now, the Times says £1 billion is a price to be part of their trading bloc. Matthew Elliott, who ran the Vote Leave campaign, he's told me on my podcast it's £22 billion a year to go back to where we were before 2016. That's a lot of money.
That's huge.
And I do think think the whole EU-UK debate, it's all about money at the end of the day. I think no one's even discussing the cost of this. And can we afford it? Do we want to? I once asked after the Brexit vote in 2016, number 10, where's the £350 million gone? Has it gone back to the NHS? And I was told by number 10, yes, it's now being spent on the NHS. But no one notices. The terrifying thing is, it was a big issue at that vote, and now it's in the NHS, and no one has any idea it's being spent.
But the EU has never got over the billions we used to give them, being with no longer part of their...
Of course.
And they want that money back.
They also miss us over there. They miss the UK. We're very good at drafting regulations that we then follow, and no one else does historically within the European Union. They like the muscle we give, the scepticism it gives them. The UK has...
I've got a nice plan. I think we can give them back Lord Peter Mandelson. He was an EU trade commissioner. They can have him for nothing, for free. They can shove him in a Brussels ivory tower, and we never have to hear from him again.
We have a strange idea
of
diplomacy, Andrew.
There we are. That's my contribution.
Well, let's move to some breaking news that we have now to bring you. Counter-terrorism policing London are investigating an arson incident at a former synagogue in East London.
Not good. Let's talk to our GB News Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, what is this depressing news?
Well, this was an arson attack, apparently, early this morning, 5:10 this morning, at a former synagogue in Nelson Street in Tower Hamlets. It hasn't been used for a number of years by the Jewish community, but Metropolitan Police say that will be of little comfort to the Jewish community, as yet again another attack on a building related to the Jewish faith. And of course, this comes on the back of about half a dozen other arson-related incidents and that terrible attack in Golders Green that took place last Wednesday. Now, according to the police, their initial examination of CCTV from the area showed what they said was a deliberate act taking place at 5:10. Detective Chief Superintendent Brittany Clark, who leads policing in that area, has issued a statement and said, "We're taking this incident extremely seriously and we will be working closely with colleagues from counter-terrorism policing to support the investigation." She goes on to say the building targeted has not been operational as a synagogue for some years, but that will be of little comfort to the Jewish community, as I said, who are first in my thoughts this morning, she said. Local residents can expect to see an increased police presence in the area while inquiries continue. And the investigation is being led, as all the other arson attacks are, by counter-terrorism policing as they continue to try to track down suspects. There have been multiple arrests since the first of those attacks in late March at the Hezbollah volunteer ambulance depot up in Golders Green. Of course, that terrorist attack that took place last Wednesday was just yards away from that initial firebombing at the Hezbollah ambulance depot.
Mark White, thank you. And proof, if we even needed it,
Exactly.
that we do need urgent action
Well,
to tackle
and as we speak, the Prime Minister is
anti-Semitism.
hosting a meeting about anti-Semitism at number 10.
Yeah, and we'll bring you, of course, any developments from that. And, I mean, the big elephant in the room, Andrew, is what is the role of Islamisation in this? Because, of course, there are all sorts of reasons for anti-Semitism and all sorts of people who are involved, but these terrorist attacks, many of them have been committed by Islamists, by people who've been radicalised.
And Tower Hamlets, where this latest incident's taken place, Mark White will correct me if I'm wrong, has a very large Muslim population, the borough of Tower Hamlets.
And actually this area of East London used to be the main sort of epicentre of the Jewish population in London, but of course many of them moved out up to the likes of Golders Green and other parts of North London. Coincidentally, just as the Muslim population, of course, grew in that area of East London. Christopher?
And it comes at a time when we've got the PM meeting and hosting a major anti-Semitism event in Downing Street. He wants an all-of-society approach towards tackling anti-Semitism. Everyone's there who should be there. The top police chiefs, Mark Rowley from the Met, GMP, Greater Manchester Police, MPCC, CBI employees there, universities, 5 cabinet members, all speaking about how we can try and do more to crack down on the anti-Semitism. It's not a police issue anymore.
No, they should have had Zach Polansky there too, the Green Party, who appears to think there isn't a problem with anti-Semitism in this country.
Yes, well, doesn't hear it at protests. Yes, but there's an
wonders
election
if it's about a perception there's anti-Jewish hatred, or there really is anti-Jewish hatred. We're seeing real anti-Jewish hatred, Mark White, all the time.
Yeah, and you know, there you get sort of ill-advised reposts of suggestions that the police were, you know, out of order in the way that they responded too heavy-handed to what was, as far as they were concerned, an unfolding stabbing attack. Yeah, the Jewish community up in Golders Green elsewhere, not just in London, but, you know, right across the country. Of course, in Manchester, we saw the Heaton Park synagogue attack, in which 2 members of the Jewish community were murdered as well. They just say that the level of anti-Semitism that they're being faced with ever since the October 7th attacks back in 2023 has just been on the rise. And it's kind of, they go through periods of peaks and troughs, and because of the war in Iraq in particular, in Iran in particular, again, the number of attacks has risen very significantly.
That's Mark White, thanks so much. We're going to cross the Downing Street now, where the Prime Minister's just been speaking about how his government is tackling the rise of anti-Semitism.
Thank you all for being here. We have a lot of work to do, so it's very important that we gather here to do that work. Thank you, Louis. That was incredibly powerful and honest and courageous. And I think it was really important that we heard you speak in your words, saying how you feel, what it feels like to be Jewish in Britain right now. And if recent events haven't given us pause to thought, that really should. About the responsibility each one of us has to face this challenge head on, and about what's at stake in the conversations that we have today. Last October, at Heaton Park, a deadly terrorist attack shocked the nation. Similarly, last week's terrorist attack in Golders Green was utterly appalling. But they were not isolated incidents. It's part of a pattern of rising anti-Semitism that has left our Jewish communities feeling frightened, angry, and asking whether this country, their home, is safe for them. These disgusting attacks are being made against British Jews. But make no mistake, this crisis, it's a crisis for all of us. It is a test of our values, values that aren't guaranteed. They are earned every single day through our actions. So it's not enough to simply say we stand with Jewish communities. Of course we do, but we must show it and act it. And the responsibility lies with each and every one of us, because it is our fight too. It is about the kind of country that we all want to live in. And that's what today is about, because only by working together can we eradicate anti-Semitism from every corner of society. I've seen this poison up close. I've seen the damage it does when it takes hold. And I know what it demands to root it out. A coordinated approach, an unwavering resolve, and zero tolerance for failure. That is the action I took in the Labour Party, that I had to take in the Labour Party. And that is what we must do today. My government is using the full force of the state to that end. We have begun, as we must, with immediate protection. In recent months, as anti-Semitic incidents have risen, We've acted decisively to strengthen the safety of Jewish communities, and last week we announced an additional £25 million in funding. That money is being used to increase police patrols, enhance security at synagogues, schools and community centres, and place specialists and plainclothes officers in communities to prevent serious harm before it occurs. That is the right thing to do. But what a sad thing to have to read out that list of acts to you of the measures that we're taking. Protecting synagogues, schools and community centres. I repeat those words. Because, of course, we can't accept a future where communities feel safer only behind higher walls. Security is essential, but that is not enough. We must also deal with the forces that drive this hatred in the first place. So we're confronting them directly. One of the lines of inquiry is whether a foreign state has been behind some of these incidents. We're investigating, of course, all the possibilities. And we're clear that these actions will have consequences if that proves to be the case. Our message to Iran or to any other country that might seek to foment violence, hatred or division in society is that it will not be tolerated. That is why we're fast-tracking legislation to tackle these malign threats. And we're clear-eyed about the fact that anti-Semitism does not have one source alone. Islamist, far left, far right extremism all target Jewish communities. That is why this government has put in place the first coordinated national plan to strengthen cohesion and confront extremism in all of its forms. This is not about tinkering around the edges. Our plan is a complete step change in how we protect communities, moving beyond piecemeal responses to a sustained nationwide effort, one that ensures that people across the United Kingdom can live freely and without fear. We are strengthening our ability to disrupt extremism, stopping those who spread hatred from entering the country, and giving the Charity Commission stronger powers to act against organisations that enable it. We're holding technology companies to account, requiring them to remove illegal extremist content or face serious penalties. And we've introduced stronger powers to deal with protests, ensuring intimidation is not tolerated on our streets. And when these vile acts are committed, we're bolstering the response of our justice system, working to speed up sentencing for offences so that consequences are swift and the deterrent is clear. But it is also important to recognise that so often this hatred does not begin with violence. It begins with ideas, with misinformation, tropes and conspiracy theories, and with attitudes that, left unchecked, can take root and spread. So in those spaces where the shoots of anti-Semitism begin to grow, we are stepping in. We've commissioned independent reviews into anti-Semitism in education and health services. Across the NHS, we're rolling out anti-Semitism training for staff. And in our schools, colleges and universities, we're investing £7 million to tackle anti-Semitism, while making sure Holocaust education is taught in all schools. And today we're going further. We already expect universities to set out clear disciplinary consequences for anti-Semitism and to enforce them. And so we will hold them to account on that. But today I can announce that we will lift the bar higher. When abuses take place, we're calling on universities to demonstrate action. We will now expect them to publish the scale of the problem on their campuses, as well as the specific steps they have taken to clamp down on it. There will be zero tolerance for inaction. In our cultural venues and spaces, we will also expect more. where public funding is being used to promote or platform anti-Semitism, the Arts Council must act, using its powers to suspend, withdraw and claw back funding. And today we're mandating an independent audit of how allegations are handled. This will be a hard-edged review of where systems are failing and where they need to be strengthened. We will not and cannot accept complacency, delays or weak enforcement. And where complacency is found, it will be challenged and addressed swiftly. And we will also address a quieter but no less serious harm. The way rising security costs are forcing Jewish artists and organisations out of public life. That is exclusion, and it is unacceptable. We will ensure that the Arts Council and the Home Office funding can be used to cover protective security costs so that participation is not determined by fear. There is, of course, more work to do, and we won't stop playing our part. But this is not a task that government can do alone. Every part of society has a responsibility to respond with determination and force. Because there are too many people who don't see anti-Semitism for what it is, an anti-Jewish hatred, racism, pure and simple. That is why today I'm asking you, each and every one of you, to reflect on what form anti-Semitism takes in the sectors that you lead, in how it may be allowed to fester and spread, and on the work that you are currently doing to stamp it out. And then, even more importantly, I'm calling on you to act with urgency, to look clearly at where you are succeeding and just as clearly at where there is still work to be done, and to commit to the tangible act.
So
it's not someone else's responsibility. It is all of ours. That is the test before us. And only by working together will we meet it. So thank you for being here today. We have a lot of work to do. We're now going to move through to the pillared room to discuss that work further. So please come through and join us in the pillared room so we can continue the work that we're starting today. Thank you so much.
Mini summit at number 10, anti-Semitism. Chris Hope, our political editor. Christopher, there were some constructive news announcements in that.
There was there, to be fair to him. I mean, that was quite rare to have him addressed, like almost like a mini conference in number 10 there. And just so we can tell viewers who's there, employers, trade union leaders, university bosses, vice-chancellors, top police officers, 5 members of the cabinet. They've gone further than we thought. They are going after the othering of the Jewish, of actors and in the culture, funding. If you produce art which is against the Jewish people, you'll lose your funding. The Arts Council will be forced to pull back any funding from that. He said there'll be zero tolerance on university campuses. Universities must now publish the scale of anti-Semitism on their campuses. It's a bit like the freedom of speech crackdown, but now with anti-Semitism. This is all promising, frankly, and not what
we've talked on this programme to students and student representatives Jewish students who say they are jeered, hissed at.
Yeah. It's disgusting.
Nazi salutes when they walk into a lecture.
I know, and he's got Universities UK in there, he's got vice-chancellors in there. This is what, on the site of the Golders Green stabbings last week, we heard Mark Rowley saying, we can't do it on our own, society's got to call out anti-Semitism. Well, here's the PM doing that, right? And he's called together the senior people. A lot of that was was warm words, reviews of the NHS, reviews of other areas too. But he's saying here, what can you do in your different sectors to combat this scourge of anti-Semitism?
And also, Chris, a recognition of the extortionate security costs that many Jewish cultural groups now face. If they want to participate in their activity, they're having to pay for security guards and other measures. So perhaps the government's going to step in and help.
Well, on that exact point, the Arts Council will have to pay for that. Why should art, which involves promoting the Jewish faith or Jewish actors or Jewish messages, not go ahead because of the risk of demonstrations outside? The Arts Council will now pay for that, he says.
Very interesting. Well, our panels here, Rennie Hunterkamp and Kevin Maguire. Maguire, you hear him speak. I was moaning to you while he was chatting himself.
As you always do.
Well, just say, you know, same old Starmer, not very inspiring. But then near the end, he did actually come up with something positive and new.
And we heard from the audience, which includes Jewish leadership groups, it sounded like warm applause. Of course, he'll be judged by deeds, not words, in the end, how it is enacted. And we all want to live, I think, in a vibrant, diverse country that's also decent and tolerant, except tolerance of intolerance, which you cannot. You cannot allow the othering of Jewish people. Anti-Semitism is an evil. It's a persistent evil, which has grown again recently. And it's how do you get that balance with protecting people's free speech and their right to criticise Israel, protest against what's happened in Gaza, without being anti-Semitic and blaming an entire group of people for the activities of a government in the Middle East.
Renee, earlier on the programme we had Levi Shapiro, a Jewish community leader, speaking to us, and he said that the community were expecting a solidarity salad from Starmer. Do you think that's what they got, or could there be a little bit more action than words?
I think the words were good. I'm going to say that. I don't often say that about some. I think the words were good, and I think this has been a long time coming. I wish it had come much sooner. I'd like to hear action in the sector that I work in. I'd like to have heard words on that about the NHS, where I hear from doctors on a daily basis that they are being terrorised in their own workplace for being Jewish, but also patients. Patients are fearful now, Jewish patients, of going into the NHS because of the activism that goes on the wards. Patients getting Free Palestine stickers stuck on their beds if they're Jewish.
Lord.
And, you know, this needs to end as well. The NHS should be the safest place for anyone to go. And they are at their most vulnerable. So I think it's good, and I think that all of these things count. I think it's going to be hard to put this genie back in the bottle because they have allowed it to fester for so long.
Really important that they're tackling universities because get the hatred early.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the problem that we have with our younger generation, and I'm talking about people probably under 40 who are very enticed by the Greens, is that they've been through university where they've been allowed to have these views. And actually more than that, they've not just been allowed to have them, they've been promoted, they've been supported. You know, you promote what you permit.
And it's been normalised, hasn't it? And now in some situations it's the unusual thing to stand up for the reason for Israel coming into existence and those kind of things.
The Greens are led by the only Jewish leader of a party at the moment, and he is attempting to navigate between, again, being concerned about what's happened in Gaza and elsewhere, and then people who are clearly anti-Semitic, as they've attracted a lot of
But he himself has been accused of anti-Semitism, and some of the tweets have showed it.
I'm not going to accuse a Jewish person of being anti-Semitic.
One of the things
that... A Jewish person can be anti-Semitic, though. You accept that?
What, are you calling him... how are you describing him?
That?
No, I wouldn't describe him.
No, what I'm saying
I think in the Jewish community there's a lot of diverse opinions, which the idiots who attack should remember. There are a lot of different opinions on Gaza and the state of Israel.
Can a black person be racist?
Yes, towards other groups, but not to other black people.
Of course they can.
I think we're getting into the realms of a philosophical discussion here.
Yeah.
One thing, Renee, that was not mentioned, though, was some of the hate preaching that we've heard from mosques. So there's some interesting cultural responses from the Prime Minister, some funding for different things, which I'm sure will be welcome. But what about the kind of preaching that goes on in some mosques that actually encourages members of the Muslim community to hate Jews or worse, to attack?
Absolutely. And I was talking about this to somebody at the weekend, and we almost, the Muslim community should stand up and firstly call out their mosque mosques where this is going on. But we should be able, in all of our religious places where people are preaching, to actually have them filmed so that they can be inspected at some point if that needs to be, so that they know that if they... I don't care, because I think that much of what goes on is actually going on in mosques.
So
We've seen it. GBNews have done investigations where they've been into mosques and seen absolute hatred and the calling of death of Jews.
So you would put surveillance cameras in every mosque, synagogue, church,
yeah.
temple, gurdwara?
Yeah.
Massive intrusion,
Massive,
I would say. If there is a problem with a hate preacher, and there are some, we've seen them in the past.
We've seen them,
that has to be dealt with. But let's not tar every imam, everybody in a mosque with the same brush. Otherwise, you're doing to Muslims what some people are doing to the Jewish.
Who would monitor the output?
I don't know.
Because that's a huge operation.
So what about Christian churches that have a conservative message? For example, there'll be many people who would object to what's spoken. I mean, that would be a massive departure from freedom of speech and religion in this country, and it would be going down the route of the Middle East, where they do that. But of course, they live in authoritarian societies that we want to avoid.
I don't think Kevin's right. I don't think it is just some. I think it's many more than we know. You know,
what's the evidence for that?
40 years ago, when...
No evidence.
Can I speak? Is that right?
There's no evidence for it. I'm just pointing out you've got no evidence for that.
40 years ago, when I grew up with a Muslim family who adopted me as their daughter, the father, who was a very learned man, a lecturer at the local university, used to say to me then, what goes on in these mosques, filling the minds, the empty minds of people who are willing to take it on board, is the massive problem here. That was 40 years ago. And he said, into empty minds flies radicalism. And when it's being preached from the pulpit, it's a problem.
Chris, can you imagine any politician going in with that in their manifesto? Every place of worship will have CCTV camera?
No, I can't. I mean, I think it just goes too far. I mean, you can imagine it. But, yeah, there's all sorts of, some churches don't allow, that are happy with women taking part and leading a service. I mean, I think where do you stop? I think that's...
Well, that's the Roman Catholic Church, which I'm very proud to be part of. We do not allow women priests.
I'm an atheist, a humanist on a good day. There are parts of every religion I will disagree with, but people have a right to have those opinions. What they do not have a right to is to incite violence against or attack other groups, people who disagree with them.
Wouldn't a better solution, and one that's more in keeping with UK law and culture, was if there's a suspicion that a particular preacher or a particular mosque, then you apply for permission to surveil them or something like that. That seems to be more in keeping with British culture rather than going down. There's already too many cameras in the world.
It does, but we do need the Muslim community to come out and stand up, because most Muslims are moderate and don't want this kind of thing. So stand up and say it. Stand up and call these people out in your communities, in your mosques.
Who was the preacher with the hook? What was his
name? Abu Hamza.
How many years and months did it take to get that man banged up, locked up, when everybody knew he was a preacher of hate, and it went on for months, if not years? And he ends up in an American prison.
But he didn't represent most people. Yes, of course, he had some followers. He was an extremist. There are extremists in all communities who have followers, and it has to be tackled across all communities.
Yes,
but we're discussing specifically anti-Semitism here, and I think the government is right to have a programme, because we have people in Britain who are frightened in the way.
But I hope that every time these men, it's always men, isn't it, who are arrested for what happened, for instance, last week, or the ambulances being burnt down, what happened in Heaton Park in Manchester, hope they are grilled about where they go, where they got the hatred. Who filled their head with this vile hatred?
I think
was it a mosque?
The accusation,
was it a bookshop?
The police know more than we know publicly, because the surveillance is now pretty intense, and what they believe is Iranian groups are hiring local thugs to do their dirty work, which is why often the charges aren't terrorism, because these are horrible people who are.
And Kevin, we're hearing in the headlines today, 200,000 people have crossed the Channel today. We think a disgrace, shame on both the Tories and Labour houses. But how many of those now are Iranians?
Well, also,
who
the majority
could be terrorists?
of these people come from countries where Jew hate is an acceptable part of life.
Can we just bring in...
The figure's down a third this year. I've got to...
Because the weather's been too bad. Let's see what's down.
We just bring in really, really quickly, Chris, what are the political implications of this speech for Labour vote?
Well, I think it shows they are trying to take on the concern. They're trying to reassure the Jewish community. I think it is quite a good thing to do, a good thing to say. I think it's all soft power. It's late. There's no police force established separately for the Jewish community. It is the government doing it all it can. He's showing leadership, I think, across all the civil society by doing this. Look at the audience who's there. It's to his credit. It is late, Andrew Pearce. You're right.
It is.
But it's right about
in
time.
2 days' time, we've got elections. It's very late.
Course.
But the police have taken... Look, how can you stop everybody is a criminal? Sadly, you can't. But the police
Hold that thought.
they have done things in the past.
We'll come back to the panel in an hour or so.
And as we were saying, small boat arrivals are expected to hit 200,000 today. We'll tell you how many have come over since Labour and how many while the Tories from power. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're heading to northern Italy or southern France, then expect some thunderstorms over the next few days. But for most of the Mediterranean, it's set to stay fair and dry and mostly sunny. Although temperatures will be a little bit below par for the time of year, it should still feel pleasantly warm in the sunshine across Portugal and Spain. We do run into those heavy showers, though, for the Balkans and particularly northern parts of Italy. But further south, many parts of Greece and Turkey will be turning increasingly dry over the next few days, with some sunshine around as well. And temperatures around average, so feeling warm in the sunshine.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Just have to accept this is now Britain. I think it's very sad, and I think the shoplifting thing has got completely out of control. I mean, one of the stories for Greggs, I mean, it's the 3G story. It's Gosling, Greggs and Greenford. I mean, a particular man that went in and 38 times, I believe, in about 6 weeks, went in and robbed the same Greggs store. And then, actually, he only went away for he got a 4-month suspended sentence. And I think then you were talking about, you know, Costa and Pret and that, putting in extra cameras, Sainsbury's extra cameras. Body cams. Body cams in Marks and Spencer's, yes. I mean, it's happening right across the board, and I think they have to be taking their precautions. But it's a very, very sad state of affairs we've got ourselves into. I mean, I think the police are reporting now something like 1,500 shoplifting offences a day, and actually the retailers' associations are suggesting they're underplaying it by 20 to 40 times. You've got to give people in the country hope, and people in the country need to see there is an economic strategy, there's an upwards, there's an opportunity where they're going, the horizon looks better than it is now, so they don't feel desperate. And I think that goes through all of us.
Why do you need to do that, not to steal? I think that we've got one of the most repellent governments we've had in an awfully long time, but that doesn't make me want to go. I mean, maybe I should pop across to the Marks and Spencer's across the road and, get myself a bottle of champers because, I'm annoyed about Starmer.
Well, they certainly wouldn't be able to do anything about it, Christo, because, as you said, under £200.
Right, hold the fort. I'm off. I'm off to get us a little bit of champers. That'll be lovely this afternoon in the sunshine.
Isn't it a real indictment of where we find ourselves in Britain today, Christo, that we've gone from this high-trust, low-crime society that, you can only feel nostalgic about now, watching old YouTube videos about London of yore, where, people would walk past, pick up a newspaper and just drop in the tuppence that they needed to pay for it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Buckle up, Britain. It's going to be quite a ride. Votes are being cast and counts are gearing up in elections across the country. Everything could change. From the first result to the inevitable aftermath. We'll be across it all. Vote 2026, the people decide. From 11 p.m. Thursday night, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Does Chopper need a coffee?
There's a fly under the...
11 British World War II veterans are being honoured in the Netherlands today as the Dutch thank them for helping to liberate their country from Nazi occupation. 100,000 people. What a treat for the veterans. Are expected to line the streets of the country's main celebration, and we're going to speak to some of the veterans later.
Amazing scenes, and Will Godley had a wonderful report there with one of the veterans earlier, reminiscing.
Really with it, really articulate, and really proud to be there. And I think they're going to be pretty overwhelmed by the reception.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's move on to some other breaking news now. And the small boats crisis is closing in. 200,000 crossings shortly after another 800 arrivals this weekend.
Dear me. The milestone ramps up the pressure on Keir Starmer's government, with critics claiming Labour has lost control of our borders.
Well, GBNews' Home and Security Editor Mark White joins us now alongside the former Home Office Minister Tom Pursglove. Mark, let's start with you. You've been monitoring the crossings for some time now. 200,000 people. I mean, it's hard to imagine a population that size. We're talking about a medium-sized city.
Yeah, remember, 71,000 of those under Sir Keir Starmer's watch. So far from smashing the gangs, they are still coming under. Now, it's true to say that this year, so far, the numbers are down 35% or so. We got another 900 over the bank holiday weekend. But all it takes is a run of good weather for a week or two, and that particular sort of gap is closed very, very quickly. And there, to me, doesn't seem to be any sign of a slowdown. In fact, quite the opposite. I'm getting some news that there are significant numbers crossing the border further north in Europe. We'll bring that to you a bit later on today. But I've got
from Belgium?
Through some of the Eastern European countries.
Oh.
But I've got another exclusive that we want to bring to you, which is pictures from a beach at Oy Plage near Calais that happened on Sunday, and these images show a more robust approach by the police. You can see them there running towards a migrant dinghy. This time the dinghy is in the water and full of migrants. The police are running up to it, slashing the boat, and then the migrants are forced to scramble off and back on shore again. Now, the thing about this...
But they could have been doing that for years.
Exactly that. The police told us for years in France they would not enact this particular tactic because it was too dangerous. Even in shallow water, people could get hurt. But clearly, whether this particular police unit is acting out of normal orders or whether this is now a more robust approach, certainly Utopia 56, one of the NGOs, the charities over there that help these migrants cross the English Channel in the first place, advised them to help ensure they get across. Utopia 56 would say safely. They condemned this and they say they're seeing more robust tactics from the French police. But I find it very interesting that Utopia 56 would condemn the police, who are trying their level best to stop these migrants engaging on a dangerous journey across the Channel, rather than actually condemning the journey, the migrants taking part in a very dangerous journey across the Channel. Of course, we know that 2 migrants died just in the early hours of Sunday morning.
Well, that's the risk they take. Tom Pursglove, terrific news, isn't it, that the French police are diving in with penknives or knives or blades and punching these wretched dinghies?
Let's see. We've seen these sorts of things before.
You're sceptical, aren't you?
Well, I remember seeing, for example, the French police cut a boat up on land about 12 months ago. We've never seen that repeated. So what we've seen with this tactic is a step change, and there was a lot of resistance previously to the French police getting into the water and puncturing boats in the way that video demonstrates. However, there will be a lot of variables at play in this. The sort of resourcing that they have available on any given day will play into it. I think it'd be interesting to see the approach that they take, for example, if there are children on board any of these vessels. And there will also be other factors that will play into it that will be very relevant. So I'm definitely going to reserve judgment as to whether we're going to see that tactic deployed. And the other thing, of course, is that this is so lucrative for the criminal gangs. All they will do is procure more boats, get people to the UK, because I think the most interesting thing about these figures today is that less than 5% of that 200,000 have been removed. So it has to be worth the criminal gangs carrying on with that endeavour because there is a captive market who want to pay for those crossings, and the people who want to come, even if they're stopped in the way that we've just seen in that footage, it's in their interest to have another go.
Well, can I say that's the biggest pull factor of all? The fact that statistically, if you cross the English Channel, the odds are that you will stay, massive odds in your favour of 95% chance that you're not going to be removed. And that's one of the biggest pull factors of all. I suspect what's happened on the beach here with the police slashing that boat is they saw an opportunity, though the boat was close enough into shore. They obviously didn't see any women and children on board, or they wouldn't have done it. They must have been all male migrants. They weren't doing it for the cameras because there was no TV camera there. That was just a member of that Utopia 56 charity filming it on their phone. So I think they took the opportunity and they did it. Will we see it day in, day out? I doubt it very much.
And of course they'll just put children in the dinghy.
Yes.
That's what they'll do, won't they, Tom?
Exactly. And this is the tactical approach that they take. So they will find other people to steer the boats to try and avoid prosecutions. If they can strategically place children and young people in the boats to try and deter the French from getting in the water and doing that, that is precisely what they will do. This is evil criminality that we're dealing with. And exactly as Mark says, all the while that there is that incentive of knowing that if you can get here, you're going to stay, there will continue to be a market for these crossings. And it's why, and there were many that didn't like it, and I think the Overton window, the political opinion on this issue has moved enormously. But why Rwanda was so important? Because you cannot remove people back to Syria or Eritrea or Sudan, which is why you need a third country, because if you can't send them back to source country, you need to be able to send them somewhere else to shut this down.
Indeed.
Well, it's a terrible milestone, 200,000. Shame on the heads of the Labour government and the Tory government we had before. Sorry, Tom.
Tom, Mark, thank you. Well, coming up next, ever the diplomat, Donald Trump has threatened to blow Iranian ships off the face of the earth if they interfere with his efforts. That's all after the weather.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. It's a bright start out there for most of us, but cloud will bubble up as the day goes on, and for all of us, certainly feeling cooler than it has done over the bank holiday weekend. So as I mentioned, plenty of brightness around first thing this morning, but showers already developing across northern and western parts of the country. And as the day goes on, the cloud will bubble up almost everywhere across the UK. Sunshine at a premium during the middle of the day, but most of us generally stay in dry, but there will still be a few showers around. And note the temperature is certainly down, still potentially reaching the high teens though across the far south of England. Into the afternoon rush hour, and actually things will begin to cheer up again across parts of Scotland. Some sunshine returning here. Still a few showers around, especially across the northern and western Isles. And a very similar story for Northern Ireland. Sunshine returning here, but unfortunately for the main bulk of England and Wales, we will hang on to some cloud and again some spits and spots of rain, although it may well be a fairly cheery end to the day down towards the far southwest of England. Overnight, we will see a lot of the cloud begin to clear away to the south. That will allow plenty of clear skies, especially across more northern parts of the country, and that will allow us to see a fairly widespread frost to develop in the countryside, so gardeners and growers beware of that. Further south, temperatures probably hanging on into mid-single figures in the countryside. So we start Wednesday off on a fairly bright note across the east. Further west we will see some showers, but as the day goes on we will start to pick up some cloud across many eastern areas, maybe some spits and spots of rain too. So come the afternoon, best of the sunshine more towards the western half of the country, although some rain returning up across the very far northwest of Scotland. Temperatures on Wednesday down on Tuesday, potentially only up to the mid-teens across the very far south of England.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time. But I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
It's 11 o'clock on Tuesday, the 5th of May, live across the UK. Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Breaking news in the last hour. Sir Keir Starmer's crackdown on anti-Semitism intensifies as the Prime Minister pledges stronger support for Jewish communities across the country.
Make no mistake, this crisis, it's a crisis for all of us. It is a test of our values. Values that aren't guaranteed. They are earned.
That's as Number 10 issues a stark warning to countries who incite anti-Semitism.
Our message to Iran or to any other country that might seek to foment violence, hatred or division in society is that it will not be tolerated.
Well, the Prime Minister has also ordered a crackdown on anti-Semitism in universities and the arts.
Universities set out how they deal with anti-Semitism on campus, and the Arts Council will pull money from any bodies which promote anti-Semitism as the PM cracks down on anti-Jewish hatred.
And also breaking in the last hour, counter-terrorism police have launched a probe into a suspected arson attack at a disused synagogue in East London.
And the Strait of Hormuz standoff continues. President Trump says US forces have shot down another 7 Iranian fast boats as tensions continue to escalate in the Middle East.
Let them have a nuclear weapon, or you'd have problems like nobody would believe.
More disorder on our borders. A huge milestone today. Small boat arrivals expected to hit 200,000 today. And guess how many have been deported? A mere 7,612.
And cruise virus horror. A hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship has killed 3 people and 1 British crew member requires urgent care.
We do appreciate what they do for us when we do come over here because they treat us like royalty.
A moment of honour and remembrance as World War II veterans are in the Netherlands to lead Liberation Day celebrations.
And thousands of people have come out here in the Netherlands to pay tribute to the 11 British veterans here today for Liberation Day. The parade is about to begin. Are you ready?
Ready, definitely.
Perfect. Well, we'll have it throughout the morning.
Of course, it's that great taxi charity, Get Those Veterans Out There. They do such great work all year round. We're big supporters of the charity on this station, and we take them to the Cenotaph and Remembrance Sunday every year. And how marvellous that some of them are going back to the beaches and going back to Holland where they served. I think it's fabulous.
Of course, Allied troops were treated as absolute heroes when they invaded Holland and pushed back the Germans, and when they finally surrendered in 1945, and still just about within living memory for some Dutch people, but not for much longer.
No, that's why we've got to mark it as we can, and we will. As ever, tell us what you think, send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/yoursay. But first, here's the news with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom. Just after 11 o'clock, Sir Keir Starmer is warning Iran and any other state not to fuel hatred, violence or division in Britain. The Prime Minister made the comments at Downing Street earlier at a summit on anti-Semitism after the Golders Green terror attack and a suspected arson at a former synagogue in East London. He told leaders from policing, universities, businesses and the arts that extra security is necessary but cannot be the whole answer. Universities are being told to publish the scale of anti-Semitism on campus and what they're doing about it. Meanwhile, arts bodies are also being warned that public money must not be used to platform anti-Semitism, while funding potentially could be suspended, withdrawn or clawed back. Well, at that summit, Sir Keir Starmer said the country now has to deal with what is driving the hatred.
Security is essential, but that is not enough. We must also deal with the forces that drive this hatred in the first place. So we're confronting them directly. One of the lines of inquiry is whether a foreign state has been behind some of these incidents. We're investigating, of course, all the possibilities. And we're clear that these actions will have consequences if that proves to be the case.
Also this morning, Iran says fresh clashes with the United States in the Gulf show there is no military solution to the war. The confrontation follows American efforts to escort commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, the key route for global energy supplies. Tehran warns US forces risk being dragged into what it calls a quagmire. But Donald Trump has issued his own warning overnight, telling Fox News that if any US ships are targeted, Iran will be blown off the face of the earth. Almost 900 illegal migrants have crossed the Channel since Friday, taking total arrivals of just 200,000 since the crisis began. The surge comes despite the rate of crossings being lower than at the same time last year. Footage shows French police taking a tougher approach in recent days, slashing dinghies as they try to leave beaches in northern France. French officers have previously warned puncturing boats in the water can be too dangerous, with charities and human rights groups criticising the tactic. But supporters say stronger action is needed to stop the crossings before boats reach UK waters. Well, this morning, the Housing Minister Steve Reed spoke to us on the programme, and he claims that the migrant crisis is a result of Conservative government failure.
previous government was just putting people in hotels. They weren't being removed from the country if they had no right to be here. That encouraged more people to come. This government has removed now over 60,000 people who had no right to be here. We are closing down the hotels that were full of asylum seekers, opened by the Conservative government, and some of the Conservative ministers who did that now sit in Reform UK. They opened the hotels. We are closing the hotels, and we're able to do that because we are removing people who have no right to be here.
The head of NHS England is urging more people to volunteer with the health service. Sir Jim Mackey says part of the DNA of the NHS is volunteers supporting patients, staff and local communities. NHS England estimates around 70,000 volunteers are helping services across England at any one time. The healthcare charity says volunteering schemes have supported more than 1 million people over the past 3 years, and health leaders say volunteers are not just replacing doctors and nurses, rather they are helping to free them up for more complex work. The prison officer crisis is being described as draining the lifeblood from the prison system. Author and filmmaker Chris Atkins, who spent 8 months in HMP Wandsworth, says experienced officers are being lost and replaced by younger, less prepared staff. New figures show prison officer experience levels are now at their lowest since 2010. Campaigners warn inexperienced staffing can lead to more lockdowns, less rehabilitation and greater risks of violence. But the Ministry of Justice says it inherited a system in crisis and insists pay and staffing are improving. And Manchester Airport has been ranked the worst in the UK for flight delays. Analysis of Civil Aviation Authority data shows departures were delayed by an average of 19.5 minutes last year. That's longer than any other major UK airport, despite a slight improvement on the year before. Which Travel says passengers may struggle to book with confidence if performance does not improve. Manchester Airport, though, says many delays are caused by issues beyond its control. Those are the latest headlines for now. More in half an hour. Next, though, a look at the markets.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Just gone 9 minutes past 11. The markets for you. The pound will buy $1.35 and 1.15 euros. The price of gold is £3,554 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 10,596 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, the Prime Minister is holding a meeting as we speak with various civic leaders to talk about the rise of anti-Semitism. He's pledged stronger support for Jewish communities across the country.
Well, he's described the situation as a crisis for all of us. Let's take a listen.
Make no mistake, this crisis, it's a crisis for all of us. It is a test of our values, values that aren't guaranteed. They are earned.
Well, he went on to call out the rise of anti-Semitism within universities and the arts. Good, about time.
Well, our political editor, Christopher Hope, joins us now in the studio. Chris, you were listening to that fairly short speech by Keir Starmer, but nevertheless, he did actually promise some concrete actions to tackle this growing surge of anti-Semitism.
Yes, unexpectedly so, actually. So the group, the audience we couldn't see, it's rare for him to give a mini conference, as it were, in Downing Street, but we should say he was there. The top police officer in Manchester, the head of the National Police Chiefs Council, Mark Rowley, the Met Police Chief, bosses, employers groups, CBI, trade union leaders, Universities UK vice-chancellors, 5 members of cabinet. He was calling for every corner of society to step up, and he called it a complete step change in protecting communities. We know about a lot of what they're doing, training for the NHS and doctors and dealing with anti-Semitism being one of them. But there are 2 things that stepped out for me. They want universities to publish the extent of anti-Semitism on campus, the scale and what they're doing to tackle it. What that will bring in a few months' time is a league table of the most Jew-hating university in the country. That will be a big moment in how people tackle anti-Semitism, ranking league tables of how bad it is for Jewish students.
And how will that work at the university? There'll be somebody's job at the university to monitor it? Somebody within the university?
Wait
or
and
somebody
see.
external?
It could be a welfare officer, it could be complaints to the welfare groups within these universities. He wants to see clear disciplinary consequences for anti-Semitism and how that'll be enforced. There'll be zero tolerance for inaction. So there'll be league tables for Jewish students. Don't go there, you're not safe there. That'll be a big moment. And donors will look at that and go, well, why should I give money to somewhere where it's not being challenged? The second area was in the arts. He's ordered an independent audit of how allegations are handled in the arts. If arts organisations platform anti-Semitism groups, the Arts Council, which is the body which our taxes pay for to fund the arts, must use its powers to suspend, withdraw and claw back funding. It's a hard-edged review of how allegations are handled. Where complacency is found, it will be challenged, he says. And the Arts Council must step in and pay for security. So if events don't go ahead because there'll be protesters outside, that can't happen, and Arts Councils must say it. But here's an indication of what the PM was saying earlier.
Today, I can announce that we will lift the bar higher. When abuses take place, we're calling on universities to demonstrate action. We will now expect them to publish the scale of the problem on their campuses, as well as the specific steps they have taken to clamp down on it. And we will also address a quieter, but no less serious harm. The way rising security costs are forcing Jewish artists and organisations out of public life. That is exclusion, and it is unacceptable.
OK, Keir Starmer there, setting out his response to the attacks in Golders Green, the ambulance firebombing and so forth. To me, this is the PM stepping up. He is a whole-of-society approach to this. It's, you know, we can't always chuck money at the police or enforcement, more guards wandering around Golders Green and so forth. He's trying to deal with the cultural side of this, where it's not challenged enough, people are afraid to speak out. He's mandating state-funded bodies to do that.
And he has been bruised, hasn't he? When he was up in Golders Green last week, he was jeered. The local Labour MP was jeered too. A perception that they've not done enough, not least with the hate marches, which have continued to flourish. Well, most Saturdays, I think, certainly in London, a lot of our other major
Saturday,
cities.
there are a couple of big marches, actually, on both sides of the argument that are coming. We expect a big march. And also, of course, David Lammy was heckled in the attacks in Manchester. So the government is stepping up. Timing, election in 3 days. I'll merely park that, but I think this is not before time.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. That's Christopher Hope, our political editor.
Well, moving on now, and tensions are rising again in the Middle East as the United Arab Emirates claims to have intercepted, 3 Iranian missiles.
Iran's chief negotiator has warned the US that his country had not even started yet in its standoff over the Strait of Hormuz.
And President Trump says he'll blow Iran off the face of the earth if Iran attack his American ships.
Well, let's talk to the chief foreign affairs commentator at the Daily Telegraph, David Blair. David Blair, tough talk from the President of the United States. Are we getting closer to a situation where the ceasefire breaks down irretrievably?
Yes, I think we are, Andrew. Yesterday, Iran fired 15 missiles and 4 drones at the UAE. If they carry on doing that, it's going to be very hard for Donald Trump not to strike back by resuming airstrikes against targets in Iran itself. If he does that, then the war restarts. So I think we're one step away from this crisis escalating once again.
And are Libya deliberately provoking it? Because that's a pretty intense bombardment of the UAE. I mean, Iran, forgive me.
Yes, it was an intense bombardment, and the UAE has always been their favourite target. You know, most of the missiles and drones they've fired during this war have been at the UAE. And they're striking back in a way that sends a signal, which is they regard what Donald Trump calls as Project Freedom, what he says is a humanitarian venture to get stranded ships safely through the Strait of Hormuz. Iran regards that as a military effort by America to reopen the strait and break its grip on the strait. And they're not going to tolerate that. They're going to try and resist it. So the question is Donald Trump prepared to use force to regain control of the strait?
David, in your column in The Telegraph today, you argue that Trump should use force to reopen the Strait of Hormuz because we're now into coming up to our third month of near total closure of that strait, depriving us of 12 million barrels of oil every day. This is a crisis the like of which the world has never seen in terms of oil shortages. So do you really think that Trump is going to have to do whatever it takes now to allow shipping to pass through that strait?
I think we're reaching that point. You know, the global economy is reaching the crunch point now. It's long predicted, but now it's actually happening. You know, countries are going to start experiencing physical shortages of petrol and diesel and everything else pretty soon, with all that means for oil prices and for economic activity everywhere. So at some point, you know, something has to happen to get this crucial artery of the global economy moving again. Now, it's just possible that there could yet be a diplomatic solution. It's possible that the talks between America and Iran could make progress. But if they don't, then Donald Trump is going to have to take military action with all that that implies.
And he'll be looking at his own poll ratings, David, which you don't need me to tell you. He's now currently at a record low since his second presidency began.
That's right. So this is in the end a political judgment. My own view is if you set the United States military the task of making 21 miles of water safe, they can do it. You know, they're the most powerful military in the world for a reason. So it's not a question of capability, but there are huge risks attached. And undoubtedly, America would probably suffer casualties. So it's a political judgment for Donald Trump whether he's prepared to take the risk. But soon he may not have much choice.
David, do you think the British public and Western people more widely realise the scale of what's coming? We've almost become used to slightly higher prices at the petrol pump. The Iran war's not in the news every day at the moment, despite having been going on for 2 months. And yet you argue that actually in not so many weeks we are going to face a crisis the like of which we haven't seen for some time. Do you think our leaders are awake to what's coming?
Probably not. The truth is we're shielded a bit because most of the supplies going through the Strait of Hormuz go to Asia. They don't come to Europe. So Asia's first in line, and there are big Asian countries like Indonesia and Pakistan, for example, which are already suffering the effects. But we're next, and it will come unless something big changes. And it will come in a span of time measured, certainly, probably, no more than months, probably more like weeks, unless there's a big change.
David Blair from The Telegraph, thank you so much for joining us this morning and, as ever, for your expertise.
Pretty bleak, isn't it?
It is. I think, well, I mean, who knows? You never can tell exactly when these things are going to hit. But I do think there is a big crisis coming down the line, and we've been immune to it because we've still got supplies and stockpiles, and not for much longer.
Yeah, and the energy cap comes off in July, and that will put prices through the roof, and fuel and gas. But also, I heard a very interesting report on GBNews yesterday. Food inflation will hit 10% by Christmas.
Absolutely, because, of course, fertilisers are
Absolutely.
down. Lots of farmers are saying they're already on the ropes financially. Now they can't make a profit at all. It's going to be difficult to produce even our own food, let alone import it.
Now, the World Health Organization has issued a transmission warning as medics board the cruise ship affected by a deadly virus outbreak.
Well, 2 people have been evacuated as the WHO says that there may be some human-to-human transmission among close contacts on the vessel.
Currently, 3 on board MV Hondius have died, with 2 cases confirmed and 5 suspected.
Well, we're joined now by Dr. Cheryl Walter, a senior lecturer in microbiology. Dr. Walter, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Now, clearly a terrible situation for those on board this cruise ship. I understand that human-to-human transmission is pretty unlikely in the case of hantavirus, but it may be possible in this case. Why do you think that might be?
Morning, Andrew, Miriam. Thanks for having me on the show. Yes, hantaviruses are thankfully quite rare. And where we do see cases, we tend to see cases in South America where we see what we call New World hantaviruses. And there have been some documented cases of human-to-human transmission. But for the vast majority of cases that we're aware of, and we're looking at a few hundred cases a year in the South Americas, they are spread from rodents to humans. So hopefully this case remains contained as it is at the moment. And
how do you suspect, because it is rare, Dr. Walter, how do you suspect it's killed two people, husband and wife, very close, obviously. How does it manifest itself?
It's very interesting. As I say, hantaviruses they're a big family of viruses, and you get New World hantaviruses and Old World hantaviruses, and the New World ones manifest as a viral pneumonia, really severe viral pneumonia, and it kills between 30 and 50% of people that manifest with this pneumonia. So that's what it looks like is happening in this case. And it also suggests that this is a New World hantavirus and it's come from the Americas, and it will help to put together a bit of a timeline on what's happened in this very tragic case.
And what is the link to rodents?
Rodents are carriers. They don't actually get this virus themselves, but they're carriers, and they shed it in their feces and their urine. You could also get it from urine that's evaporated and turned into like a dust, so carried on dust particles. And so if you're in close contact with this contaminated rodent urine and feces, that's how you contract hantaviruses. So they're carriers. They don't actually get the disease themselves, but of course rodents are unfortunately very common.
Dr. Walters, thank you so much for joining us this morning and sharing your expertise. Very worrying situation.
Worrying, yeah.
We understand from passengers who spoke to media yesterday that they're expecting to move now to the Canary Islands, where they can disembark, because they've not been allowed to disembark on Cape Verde by the authorities.
Cruise from hell. Now it's time for our it's the new Great British Giveaway. Your chance to have a spectacular summer with 76,543.21 pence in tax-free cash. That's a very precise amount, isn't it?
76,543.21.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, 21.
I didn't get it yesterday.
I'd probably only win
If
it was me, I'd only win the 21 pence.
Can't do much
imagine
with that.
the kind of something you could have with all that money. Here's how you do it.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. Imagine all the things you could do with that cash. Give the garden a glow up, max out on a new motor, or just make sure the coming year is your year. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny for a chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash. Text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, it's a big afternoon for those wanting to get closer to the EU as the Prime Minister seeks better relations.
Well, we're going through that and more with Kevin Maguire and Dr. Rennie Hunderkamp. I think you can be guaranteed they won't be agreeing on much on that. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis. In the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there.
With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
It's 27 minutes past 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom live across the United Kingdom with Andrew and Miriam.
We've got our panel, Dr. Annie Hunderkamp and my fellow podcaster, Kevin Maguire.
Renee and I are going to start a podcast just that we can advertise it every week.
I think you should.
Girls allowed.
Yeah.
Or women allowed, sorry, I don't want to be...
Oh, that's a bit...
Girl is fine, girl is fine.
Did you notice how quickly he corrected himself?
For once.
The real man was shown there. The mask slipped.
Well, should we talk about the news?
I think he's worried.
Yeah.
Are you worried about the EU, though, Kevin?
No,
he loves it.
Do you love the EU?
No, look,
would you like to be over there waving your flag?
The best. Well, I don't go to bed whistling "Ode to Joy" and sleeping under
a
gold star. Duvet, but we were better off than in, and reducing the trade barriers now to try and fill some of that huge Brexit black hole in the economy. The Office for Budget Responsibility puts it way over £100 billion. The impact on growth.
Hang on. You think Brexit has negatively impacted our growth by £100 billion?
No, the forecast of more than 4% growth, the hit, will be more than 100 billion.
Have you seen the anemic growth of our competitor EU countries over the same period?
Yeah, look, they're growing slowly as we've grown slowly, but we've got this huge bureaucracy. Look, you just have to speak to farmers.
The EU's got a huge bureaucracy.
Yes, I agree. We have messed up the farming aspect, but that was our choice.
See, I'm going to convert you. I'm going to bring you back in.
Good luck.
The billion. Do you want to pay $1 billion? No, you don't. But if you look at the Swiss who have access to the open market, I think they pay £370 million. I'm afraid you've got to pay to play, and it will be worth investing that money for our businesses, and they will grow.
But we already know that the EU drive a very, very hard negotiating bargain, and we are absolutely useless at negotiating.
Yeah, certainly are.
And the things that are going to go alongside this billion are going to include free movement for young people, which our young people really don't need because they already can't get jobs or don't want to. And our big businesses will just use those European kids to, let me finish for once, to actually fill those vacancies that they can't fill otherwise and pay low salaries, cheap labour. But also, why would we tie ourselves to a failing super state that has almost no growth?
That's all just noise. We've got deals on we've got deals with countries on young people, Renee. Like I think South Korea's one, Australia's another. Deals around the world.
Limited deals.
Would you scrap all of it? This will be limited too. Would you scrap all those deals, or do you just not want a deal with France, Germany, and Italy, but you're quite happy to have one with, say, South Korea and Australia?
So we're talking about 27 countries here versus our one. This is going to be a scheme for middle-class kids who fancy spending a sum.
Well, no, that's not the only. The other single market.
This government's expanded it, so other kids like from working-class communities will be involved. They've made sure it's not just middle class.
But the government said the main purpose of this is to bring us back into the electricity single market so that we can benefit from slightly reduced pricing. I mean, the jury's out as to whether or not it will work, but that's the question. Is it worth rejoining the electricity trade? saving scheme in order to possibly benefit from lower bills.
Well, you'd have to look at the sums.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to work them out. We are too dependent on energy imports and questionably. We've seen this with the fossil fuel.
Well, we could dig a bit at the North Sea.
It would make very little difference.
Every difference helps, Kevin.
Renewables and nuclear will make and are making the big difference. You have to do the sums. Yeah, I think you've got to approach this in a hard-headed, logical way. And if re-entering the electricity market works, then let's go into the electricity market and not be ideologically hung up on having deals with the European Union, which is bigger than us economically. It's still 50% of our trade, or thereabouts. The US is about 20%, which is 50%. So let's be logical about it. Let's not have a phobia about everything that is EU, because it punishes us rather than benefiting us.
That's really nice and sweet, Kevin, for you to actually use that to wrap up this thing, which is death by 1,000 cuts, because we know that Starmer is ideologically wedded to being part of the European Union. So this is just smaller steps to make it seem more palatable, because let's not get hung up on Brexit. Let's just do a little deal here and a little deal there until we are back in, against the will of the people, in the biggest turnout for a referendum that we'd seen in the last century.
The more people voted in the 1992 general election, actually, than voted in the referendum. Well, John Major won it before.
Desperate to keep your making account.
There were many, but more than the previous referendum. But there were many general elections since 1945 with a much higher turnout. So let's not build any more myths. I thought we'd.
Well, I'd love to go through the voter turnout of every single general election since 1945, but sadly we don't have time.
Some of the viewers
because
they'll have voted in them and they'll know.
Because it's your 60-second news update with someone who's probably not old enough to remember the 1945 general elections, Sam Francis.
But Kevin is.
Very good morning to you. 11:33. The headlines this hour. Sir Keir Starmer is warning Iran not to fuel hatred or violence on Britain's streets. At a Downing Street summit on anti-Semitism, he said recent attacks show the response has got to go beyond guards, patrols and extra funding. He says the cause of anti-Jewish hatred now has to be tackled at source. 3 people have died after a virus outbreak on board a cruise ship anchored off Cape Verde. The World Health Organization has confirmed 2 cases of hantavirus, with 5 more suspected. The British man remains in intensive care. Medics have now boarded the ship to evacuate passengers needing urgent care. Iran claims clashes with the United States in the Gulf show there is no military solution to the war. Tehran has warned US forces will be dragged back into a quagmire. But last night, President Donald Trump said if any US ships are targeted, the Iranians will be blown off the face of the earth. Almost 900 illegal migrants crossed the Channel since Friday, taking the total number of arrivals close to 200,000 since the crisis began. It comes as footage appears to show French police slashing dinghies as they attempt to leave northern France. Charities and human rights groups, though, have criticised the tactic, warning it could put lives at risk. And Manchester Airport has been ranked the worst in the UK for flight delays. An analysis shows departures were almost 20 minutes late on average last year. The airport, though, says delays are often caused by weather and disruption with wider global issues. Those are the latest headlines for now. Full roundup with the news at midday.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Well, coming up at noon, we've got Good Afternoon Britain. Tom Harwood's joined us in the studio now. Tom, what's coming up on your show?
Oh, a huge amount to cover. The Prime Minister's last-minute, last-ditch attempt to try and solve some of the anti-Semitism problems in this country. The question is, has he now just announced this after the horse has bolted? Yeah. Has he closed those stable doors far, far too late? There is some substance in what he's said, but I think a lot of people in the Jewish community, and frankly, a lot of people not in the Jewish community as well, who are worried about not just rising anti-Semitism, but rising violence on our streets, will be incredibly concerned that this has all come far too late.
Of course, he did say in his speech, Prime Minister, that this doesn't start with violence, it starts with ideas. But I suppose the question is, how can you go about changing people's ideas? Is that the government's job? Can the government do it even if it wants to?
Well, importantly, the Prime Minister also said these ideas, to some extent, have been imported. He name-checked Iran. He said other countries that foment and promote anti-Semitism. And we do have to raise the question about how many people have come to this country over the course of recent decades and perhaps helped promote an idea that is fairly alien to this country in terms of attitudes to Jewish people. I mean, you have to go back to the sort of...
the Middle Ages, really, yeah.
And the issues we had in Norwich at that time in order to find equivalents. I mean, it is extraordinary. But we're not just talking about anti-Semitism today. Tony Blair has once again waded into the net zero debate. And there's a small part of me that wonders, you know, the Climate Change Act was something that was passed under Gordon Brown. Is this just the TPGBs all over again? But seriously, he's saying that energy is too expensive in this country.
He's right.
Electricity use has been falling in recent years. Now, if you want to get to net zero, you're going to need to electrify the entire economy. People are going to need to swap out lots of things that use gas or oil for things that use electricity instead. And yet the amount of electricity we're using is falling as electricity prices have risen. The only way you're going to get people to use more electricity is to make it cheaper. And so the taxes and the bans and the mandates that this government has been pursuing seem, in a funny sort of way, to be antithetical to more electricity use, which is necessary for net zero.
And
so often
Ed
the case.
Miliband was always very, very close to Gordon Brown.
Tom, look forward to that coming up at midday. But coming up next on Britain's Newsroom.
Tory leader Kemi Badenoch wants a zero-tolerance approach to crimes that make people's lives a misery. Shame the Tories didn't think about that when they were in power. This is Britain's Newsroom.
On GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A lot of dry weather today for many of us, a lot of cloud as well, and there will be showers in places, but nothing especially heavy or prolonged. Essentially, we're in between weather systems at the moment. Low pressure to one side, high pressure to the other, and as a result, a bit of a weak northerly wind, but these are light winds, and as a result, where the sun does come through, it's going to feel very pleasant, and there will be some sunny spells, especially towards the south of the UK, far north of Scotland, although in the north of Scotland, that's where the heaviest of the showers will be, and there'll be some season snow showers over the tops of the Scottish mountains because it is turning colder. But, well, like I say, where the sun comes through, it's going to feel pleasant enough with light winds. However, there will be a lot of cloud around. We keep that cloud as we go into the evening. Largely dry for southern counties of England, as well as for Wales, just the odd shower. We've got this line of showers through the day and into the evening across parts of the Midlands, into northwest England, southwest Scotland. That's drifting slowly southwestwards. And then it's in the far north of Scotland where we've got the heaviest showers. But again, these will be on and off, very hit and miss, in between some brighter spells. Overnight, not a great deal changes. We keep these areas of cloud across England and Wales in particular, clearer skies towards the northeast of the UK, and some showers here and there, especially for this time parts of Wales, Northern Ireland and the south and southwest. Now, where we've got those clear skies for Scotland and northern England, it's going to be a chilly start to the day on Wednesday with a touch of frost in some sheltered spots, otherwise milder where we've got the cloudier start for Wales and the southwest as well as for Northern Ireland. Some showers to start the day here, and mostly the showers become confined to Pembrokeshire, the far southwest of England, Northern Ireland, and one or two into the east of England. A lot of cloud here, brighter skies for Scotland, although feeling a little bit colder.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the
unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, middle-class shoppers are being accused of dressing up theft as harmless rebellion.
From self-checkout stealing to false refund claims, so-called micro-looting is on the rise, and it's costing retailers billions.
Well, let's speak to the Commissioner for the Spectator, Mary Wakefield, who wrote an absolutely magisterial piece on this subject at the weekend in The Spectator. Mary, congratulations. It was a compelling read. What is your conclusion about what sort of people we've become?
I mean, the worrying thing about the massive rise in shoplifting is not just that it'll escalate, but also what it means for trust in our society as a whole. It seems to me it's both a symptom, it's a cause of a lack of trust, but it's also a symptom of something wider, in that, you know, we don't police the norms we used to police anymore as a society. The police don't get involved, but then neither do other people. You see shoplifting, it becomes normalised. And that's a little alarming, isn't it?
In your piece, you talk about Britain being shameless, because, as you've just said, shaming other people is now seen as deeply antisocial and even wrong. Do you think we should bring back that culture of being willing to speak out and shame other people when they do antisocial things?
Yes, absolutely, I think so. I mean, it's so unfashionable, isn't it? You know, it's the idea of being a Karen or being someone who complains. But I guess it's how British society always used to work. We policed ourselves. We shushed people who were being too noisy, or we got up for the elderly, and we criticised people who didn't. Once we lose the power to police our own society, then things just keep getting worse.
I think we've become gutless, Mary, because I think some people will think if I intervene in that shop when I see some 6'2" bloke pinching a bottle of wine or whatever it is he's stealing, you're going to get a punch in the face if you protest.
I mean, I'm a terrible hypocrite, because I was thinking about it just now, and I'm honestly not sure I would intervene. I would have done 5 years ago, oddly, but now you think, well, there's knives involved, people will be violent, and you also think, well, I might be accused of something else. You know, say you pushed someone, or
you're the criminal.
Somewhere, you become the criminal, and that's so corrosive, isn't it? It's the sort of stop, don't get involved. But it's our society. You know, it's up to us to, I think, to try and summon the backbone to do something.
You've also written about the importance of community and intergenerational continuity, the idea that the older generation is watching over the generation below, keeping an eye out on children, reporting back to parents if they misbehave. Do you think population movement and immigration have disrupted society so much, actually, that we've lost that older generation looking on?
I mean, I think that's just a fact, isn't it? It's all sorts of different things. People moving out of their communities, perhaps from a more local community, a rural community, to London. So you don't have the same generations living in the same space. Also, people from different cultures with different norms coming in. And perhaps you now have sort of lots of different micro kind of cultures, but what we're losing is the sense of a shared culture, where the elders are responsible for all the children in the neighbourhood. I think we've lost respect for the elderly in general, actually. There's this idea, if anything, that they're kind of cute or sweet old people, not figures of authority to tell children off if they're doing the wrong thing, or even tut at, things that are wrong.
I'll tell you one thing, Mary, I have noticed. On tubes, often people don't give up their seat now for older people, but many times now, they ask me if I want a seat, and I don't.
How do you feel about that?
I feel terrible, and I try not to be too indignant. I say very sweetly, thank you, but no thank you, I'm fine.
No, you have to get up. You have to get up, because you need to encourage the culture.
Exactly.
I
suppose I do, you're right. I'll have to say thank you very much and take the seat. And, well, that's good advice, Mary, as ever.
Absolutely. Mary Wakefield, thank you so much.
Yeah,
super, well worth a read. Well, coming up next, there are...
If you get grey in your hair, you're old.
Is that right? Well, I always accept people opening doors for me and things like that.
Keep yours blonde, Miriam.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all fake.
I'm not implying it's not natural.
It's not. Up next, there are some fantastic celebrations for our veterans who've been taken to the Netherlands. Will Godley is there.
Yeah, thousands of people lining the streets here, clapping, applauding the 11 British World War II veterans here for the Liberation Day celebrations. In a few minutes' time, I'll be seeking the reaction from this lot here who are very much enjoying themselves. First, though, if you're in search of some holiday sun, there's none here in the Netherlands, but if you are, here's your travel weather.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're heading to northern Italy or southern France, then expect some thunderstorms over the next few days. But for most of the Mediterranean, it's set to stay fair and dry and mostly sunny. Although temperatures will be a little bit below par for the time of year, it should still feel pleasantly warm in the sunshine across Portugal and Spain. We do run into those heavy showers, though, for the Balkans and particularly northern parts of Italy. But further south, many parts of Greece and Turkey will be turning increasingly dry over the next few days, with some sunshine around as well. And temperatures around average, so feeling warm in the sunshine.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, I think you're quite right. He's desperate. But of course, he made a terrible mistake going to Ukraine just on the eve of his father undertaking probably the most delicate visit of his reign so far to Washington on Monday to somehow criticize President Trump. He really is a fool, Prince Harry. That was the worst moment to choose to criticize America. But as you rightly say, he is desperate. In Australia the other day, he lamented that he was a member of the royal family. Now he wants to be a member of the working royals. Well, of course he isn't. But he's very, very keen to join the band again because he's got nothing to do. He has got no role. He suddenly finds himself pretty destitute in California, so he is very keen to make a mark, and so he takes himself off to Ukraine to embarrass his father at the most sensitive moment of the British diplomatic calendar.
And Tom, obviously he's gone on a few trips as a private person to Ukraine most recently, but also to Nigeria, Colombia, Australia, as we mentioned. On that trip to Australia, he was asked whether he felt unshackled, and he said that he did, and he felt empowered to speak truth to power. And what are these trips saying about the way he's sort of trying to be a half in, half out royal? Is that ever going to work?
No, of course it's not going to work, and of course he's done huge damage with his autobiography Spare. And as I showed in my recent book, Betrayal, his trips, as you mentioned, to Colombia and to Nigeria were calculated to embarrass his family.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Day.
Well, the Liberal Democrat leader, Sir Ed Davey, has responded to Number 10's pledge to combat anti-Semitism, saying the government must tackle it at its root. Take a listen.
We need to make it a safe place for our Jewish friends. It is quite outrageous, these attacks on synagogues from Manchester to London, and now these other terrorist incidences. We need to make sure that the police are doing everything they can, the security services are doing.
Party leaders will be trying to respond in kind. Big speech from Keir Starmer.
Yeah, I think we can go back to Ed Davey. We're going to have another try. No, we haven't. Are we getting Ed Davey? Here we go. I just want to say about that summit, Ronald texted and said, presumably there were Muslim leaders at that summit today about anti-Semitism.
Well, we're going to talk about that.
We will ask.
We're going to talk about that tomorrow with an expert on Islamic anti-Semitism.
Yeah, we need to get the full guest list of who was there.
Absolutely. Well, moving on now, 11 British World War II veterans are being honoured in the Netherlands today as the Dutch thank them for helping to liberate their country from Nazi occupation in 1945.
GB News reporter Will Godley is there for us now. Will.
Well, good morning to both of you. Yeah, cheers are loud. There's applauding here from the Dutch, all thanking these 11 British World War II veterans. Philip Alcott joins me now. Philip, how does it feel? You told me you feel emotional. How come?
Never. I've seen the British, but it's never anything like this. There's so many people, all the way down, you know, clapping and cheering us, pushing as well. To me, it's unbelievable. It really is.
Amazing. Well, you're not here in the cab on your own, are you? George is here as well. George, you bought a harmonica, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah? Can you play a little bit of the harmonica? Have you got it on you? Here it is. This is a harmonica from 1936. You took it to Burma, you learnt some songs there, and now I've been told you're going to play as a little song.
Play your harmonica, George.
Just getting it ready. It's only just 4 notes. And this is what you sang, played back in Burma.
It was.
Wonderful. Amazing. Wonderful. Thank you very much, George. And Arnold, you're here as well. How are you finding this?
Sorry?
How are you finding it?
Fantastic.
How come?
Absolutely.
How does it make you feel?
Never seen as many people in my life.
Have you ever seen anything like this in the UK? No. Why do you think they're so supportive of you?
For what we did. We helped each other during the war and after the war. And we've been friends ever since.
And how does it feel now to come back 81 years after the Dutch got their freedom thanks to the work you did?
Well, that's right. It's just amazing that the people still remember.
Thanks for coming out to see us.
In England,
You must be frozen.
we don't remember.
No.
Only once a year, that's all. Here, we remember everything.
Wonderful. Well, Arnold, thank you very much for joining us on GB News from what is an amazing parade here.
Well, what a wonderful story that is, and we'll be there throughout the day as ever. That's it from Britain's Newsroom. Up next, Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Anne, and they'll be with those veterans in the Netherlands. We'll see you tomorrow.
We certainly will be, and you know what? We could see a bit more appreciation for our veterans here in Britain, like they do in the Netherlands. We'll also be talking about the Prime Minister's new approach to anti-Semitism and the violence we're seeing on our streets.
And Tony Blair's think tank have made yet another intervention about net zero. He has said that actually, if Britain follows that track, he's warned Ed Miliband that we will find ourselves behind growing nations, falling further behind China, the US and others. So is it time for Labour to rethink the net zero strategy? But first, let's get an update with your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. It's a bright start out there for most of us, but cloud will bubble up as the day goes on, and for all of us certainly feeling cooler than it has done over the bank holiday weekend. So as I mentioned, plenty of brightness around first thing this morning, but showers already developing across northern and western parts of the country. And as the day goes on, the cloud will bubble up almost everywhere across the UK. But most of us generally stay in dry, but there will still be a few showers around. And note the temperature is certainly down, still potentially reaching the high teens though across the far south of England. Into the afternoon rush hour, and actually things will begin to cheer up again across parts of Scotland. Some sunshine returning here. Still a few showers around, especially across the northern and western Isles. And a very similar story for Northern Ireland. Sunshine returning here, but unfortunately for the main bulk of England and Wales, we will hang on to some cloud and again some spits and spots of rain, although it may well be a fairly cheery end to the day down towards the far southwest of England. Overnight, we will see a lot of the cloud begin to clear away to the south. That will allow plenty of clear skies, especially across more northern parts of the country, and that will allow us to see a fairly widespread frost to develop in the countryside, so gardeners and growers beware of that. Further south, temperatures probably hanging on into mid-single figures in the countryside. So we start Wednesday off on a fairly bright note across the east. Further west we will see some showers, but as the day goes on we will start to pick up some cloud across many eastern areas, maybe some spits and spots of rain too. So come the afternoon, best of the sunshine more towards the western half of the country, although some rain returning up across the very far northwest of Scotland. Temperatures on Wednesday down on Tuesday, potentially only up to the mid-teens across the very far south of England.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in cash to be won. Cash to spend on anything you like. That's like having over £6,000 extra to spend each month for a whole year. You could spend it on a bucket list holiday, treats for all of the family, or just save it for a rainy day. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Buckle up, Britain. It's going to be quite a ride. Votes are being cast and counts are gearing up in elections across the country. Everything could change.
From the first result to the inevitable aftermath. We'll be across it all. Vote 2026, the people decide. From 11 p.m. Thursday night, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Does Chopper need a coffee?
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB Newsroom to every corner of Britain,
with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Tuesday, the 5th of May. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Nana Akweer.
Make no mistake, this crisis, it's a crisis for all of us. It is a test of our values. Values that aren't guaranteed. They are earned.
So, breaking in the last hour, Sir Keir Starmer's crackdown on anti-Semitism intensifies as the Prime Minister pledges more support for Jewish communities across the country. He also had this stark warning for Iran and other countries inciting violence and anti-Semitism.
Our message to Iran or to any other country that might seek to foment violence, hatred or division in society is that it will not be tolerated.
And there's border disorder. Yes, small boat migrant arrivals are on course to hit 200,000 since the crisis began. That's the equivalent to a city the size of Norwich arriving since 2018. Nearly 900 more arrived over the weekend alone.
And as we approach that grim milestone, perhaps the French police are getting a bit more robust. They've been slashing boats over the weekend. Human rights charities have criticised them. We'll bring you the exclusive video.
Straight standoff. President Donald Trump says that US forces have shot down another 7 Iranian fast boats as the tensions in the Middle East escalate. Ceasefire? What ceasefire?
Have a nuclear weapon where you'd have problems like nobody would believe.
McCann suspect extradition plan. Yes, detectives push to bring Madeleine McCann's prime suspect to Britain and put him on trial here, 20 years after she went missing.
Cruise holiday horror. World Health Organization medics have now boarded the cruise ship where a deadly virus has left 3 dead and a British passenger fighting for their life. After a hunter virus outbreak on board, we'll bring you all the details.
And costly foreign criminals. New analysis by GBNews has revealed foreign criminals housed in Britain's prisons are costing taxpayers £630 million a year. Official figures showing around 1 in 8 of the total prison population are foreign national offenders.
We do appreciate what they do for us when we do come over here because they treat us like royalty.
And a moment of honour and remembrance as Second World War veterans are in the Netherlands marking their Liberation Day, the holiday celebrating the Allies sweeping the Nazis out on the 5th of May in 1945. See, I don't get it. 630 million on foreign prisoners. You know where they've come from. Send them back. Let them do it there. I don't. Why are we? Oh, you've been really bad. We're going to put you in prison, and then when you come out, you possibly have the option of staying. But you could clear off. You've broken the law. You're from another country. It's not on.
I suppose the argument here is that in some of their countries, maybe these crimes aren't punished as harshly. Maybe some of them aren't punished at all. I mean, we know that when in Iran the revolution happened, they lowered the age of consent in marriage to 9 years old.
You know what?
So some of these
that would be very rare because in this country nobody gets punished, do they, Mark? Do people seem to be getting away with anything and everything, don't they?
Well, and I think your argument is, their interpretation of what our law is and whether they did wrong in their own eyes. It's not whether we as a country should be kicking people out who clearly have done wrong in our eyes. Yeah. And the fact is, well, some of those are from countries where it's very difficult to return them to. If they're from Iran or Afghanistan.
We don't know if these people would end up... So if someone has done some horrific crime, shouldn't we want them behind bars?
No.
Might it not be letting them off if they are then free to roam around in the country they came from?
So you'd rather pay for them then in this country? No. I would send them back and they're not allowed to come back here.
But they'd have there's the potential that they would have a free life. A life to go out and do more crime.
Well, no, they might not get as harsh a sentence. I presume they will be punished. It might not be as harsh. But on the other hand, then we have to pay for them forever, or however long that is. Forget it. It should go. Sorry,
well, lots to discuss there. Do get your thoughts in. gbnews.com/your say on what can be done with the growing migrant crime problem. I mean, I suppose one of the answers is to not let in criminals in the first place. But that seems to be beyond the auspices of this particular government.
Well, and the one before that, actually, to be fair. But before all of that, let's get your latest news headlines.
Very good afternoon to you. Just after midday, the top story this hour, Sir Keir Starmer is warning Iran and any other state not to fuel hatred, violence or division on Britain's streets. The Prime Minister made the comments at a Downing Street summit earlier on anti-Semitism after the Golders Green terror attack and a suspected arson at a former synagogue in East London. He told leaders from policing, universities, businesses and the arts that extra security is necessary but cannot be the whole answer. Universities are being told to publish publish the scale of anti-Semitism on campus and what they're doing about it. Meanwhile, arts bodies are also being warned that public money must not be used to platform anti-Semitism, with funding potentially being withdrawn. Well, the Prime Minister has said that the response cannot simply be about protecting Jewish communities after attacks happen.
Security is essential, but that is not enough. We must also deal with the forces that drive this hatred in the first place. So we're confronting them directly. One of the lines of inquiry is whether a foreign state has been behind some of these incidents. We're investigating, of course, all the possibilities. And we're clear that these actions will have consequences if that proves to be the case.
In other news this afternoon, Iran says fresh clashes with the United States in the Gulf show there is no military solution to the war. The confrontation follows American efforts to escort commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, the key route for global energy supplies. Tehran warns US forces risk being dragged into what it calls a quagmire. But Donald Trump has issued his own warning, telling Fox News overnight that if any US ships are targeted, Iran will be blown off the face of the earth. Almost 900 illegal migrants have crossed the Channel since Friday, taking total arrivals to within one boatload of 200,000 since the crisis began. It comes as this new footage appears to show French police taking a tough approach on beaches of northern France. The video shows officers slashing dinghies as they try to leave the beach, a tactic French police have previously warned can be dangerous once boats are in the water. Charities and human rights groups have also criticised the approach, saying it could put lives at risk. But supporters argue stronger action is needed on the French side before boats reach the Channel. 3 people have died after a hantavirus outbreak on board a cruise ship anchored off Cape Verde. The World Health Organization has confirmed the virus in 2 people, with 5 more suspected cases, while a British man remains in intensive care. Medical teams have now boarded the vessel to evacuate 2 people needing urgent treatment. The ship's operator says 2 crew members, 1 British and 1 Dutch, have acute respiratory symptoms. Hantavirus is usually spread by rodents, but the WHO says it has been told there are no rats on board, but the risk to the wider public remains low. And Manchester Airport has been ranked the worst in the UK for flight delays. Analysis of Civil Aviation Authority data shows departures were delayed by an average of 19.5 minutes last year. That's longer than any other major UK airport, despite a slight improvement on the year before. Which Travel says passengers may struggle to book with confidence if performance does not improve. Those are the latest headlines for now. More in half an hour. Next, though, a look at the midday markets.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And just gone 9 minutes past 12, the markets for you. The pound will buy $1.35 and 1.15 euros. The price of gold is £3,554 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is currently at 10,596 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Just played it.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 9 minutes past midday. Now, Sir Keir Starmer cracks down on anti-Semitism as he pledges stronger support for Jewish communities across the country.
He described the situation as a crisis for all. Let's have a listen to what he said earlier.
Make no mistake, this crisis, it's a crisis for all of us. It is a test of our values. Values that aren't guaranteed. They are earned.
Well, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey, has also shared his concerns on the growing number of anti-Semitic incidents across the country.
We need to make it a safe place for our Jewish friends. It is quite outrageous, these attacks on synagogues from Manchester to London, and now these other terrorist incidences. We need to make sure that the police are doing everything they can, the security services are doing everything they can, and we tackle this problem at its root, where people are getting away with saying horrible, hateful things.
Well, our political editor is currently in a briefing with the Prime Minister's spokesperson, and he'll give us the latest as soon as he is out of there.
But moving on now, the small boats crisis is closing in on 200,000 crossings after another 800 arrivals this weekend.
Now, the milestone ramps up pressure on Sir Keir Starmer, with critics claiming that Labour has lost control of the borders.
Well, our Home and Security editor, Mark White, is with us here in the studio. Mark, it is extraordinary, this threshold, this total, in just 8 years' time.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of the weekend, the bank holiday weekend, add yesterday's total in there as well, takes you to 900 who've crossed in that short period. And yes, we're just about a boatload or just over away from that 200,000 mark. Probably not going to get that figure until Thursday or Friday of this week, when the weather conditions are due to improve again with more boat crossings. As sure as night follows day, that's what we always see. But we've obtained some exclusive video, actually, that maybe shows that the French police are, after many years of saying they wouldn't go into the water to slash boats, getting a bit more robust in doing that. If you take a look at these images, these are French police officers running towards this boat at Oy Plage, just near Calais, running up to the boat, slashing it, and then migrants jumping off, obviously, as that boat starts to sink. Now, the French police had always maintained that actually when the boat hits the water, it's too dangerous to do that. But really, is it? Well, you can see it's not, because they're ankle deep in water, basically. And so the French seized the opportunity, ran up to this and slashed it. That was one boat that's not heading to the UK. Interestingly, Utopia 56, who filmed this, one of their activists on the beach there, condemned the French tactics as being dangerous. It's interesting that they don't condemn the migrants themselves for embarking on what would be a much more dangerous endeavour, which is crossing the English Channel in a boat stuffed to the gunwale, full of them, in a boat that is not at all designed to take that crossing. And we saw just at the weekend there 2 other migrants who died when their boat got into difficulties down south of Boulogne.
It's typical as women, because they probably got trampled on by the men, and that's
often the way. Yeah, in the middle of these boats often give way, and there's so many people stuffed on a boat. We believe there was 82 that sometimes they can get, trampled on. We don't know exactly how these 2 female migrants died, but that was the latest death toll. As I say, though, the charities are condemning the police, who are trying to do their level best, it seems, maybe belatedly, to stop them embarking on that dangerous journey in the first place.
Why don't we push back then on these charities for a second?
I thought the numbers were coming down, though. I thought that was the government appeared to be telling us that the numbers were coming down.
The numbers are down on where we were at this point last year, but there's a lot of factors at play here, and the weather, in our opinion, we monitor this very regularly, is the biggest factor at play here. We'll see how it plays out, because when you get to the flat, calm spells of weather where you can have a run of 7 days or more of good weather, you can see that 35% down on last year narrow very significantly. So we'll see that. If it continues to be that level throughout the year, then perhaps the government have a point. Perhaps this kind of activity that we're viewing here, slashing the boats and being more robust on the beaches, is kind of scattering the people smugglers and making it a bit difficult for them. All I would say, though, with regard to what you're seeing here, is this is not stopping them, it's only ever delaying them by a day or two, because they meet up with another smuggling gang and then they just try again.
Well, Mark White, thank you very much indeed. Now, when challenged on the matter earlier, the Housing Secretary Steve Reid... Goodness me.
Freudian slip.
Did he? No, I don't think he did. No, Steve Reid blamed the previous Conservative government.
And they're holier than thou on this issue. When their MPs were in government, they got it badly wrong and the crisis ran out of control. We are getting a grip on it. Is it fast enough? We want to go faster.
All right, so that was Steve Reed earlier in response. Right, if you just tuned in, welcome aboard. This is Good Afternoon Britain. It is fast approaching 17 minutes after midday.
Well, 3 people have died and a British passenger remains in intensive care after a suspected hantavirus outbreak on board the cruise ship in the Atlantic.
Now, with the World Health Organization warning about transmission risks, medics have boarded the vessel as authorities scramble to contain the situation and support those on board.
Well, joining us is our health editor, Lucy Johnston. Lucy, we spoke about this a little bit yesterday, but for those who weren't watching, what is hantavirus and how can you catch it?
Hantavirus is a very deadly virus that you catch from breathing in the aerosolized particles of rodent excreta, so rodent feces, urine and saliva. And these World Health Organization and various health authorities are trying to trace the strain, you know, they're trying to trace the source of this. They believe that it could have been from an excursion from the trip. 2 of the passengers we now know travelled in Argentina, where there's a strain. There are many versions of this, but there's an Andes strain of hantavirus, which is among the most deadly strains, and that affects the lungs. So they're watching very carefully, and there will be weeks or days before blood test results come back to confirm whether it is that strain, and that would give us some more clues about where this came from. We've just had some breaking news now. The ship has said that there are no rats on board, so they are telling the World Health Organization that. But if it is this Andes strain, there is some reports in the medical literature that it could be transmitted between humans with prolonged contact. So perhaps a husband and wife or people on ships are together for long periods of time indoors. So there are questions there, though they are still saying, the World Health Organization is still saying that that is not as likely as transmission from the rodents, from the excreta of the rodents. So they're watching it very, very closely, and they're trying very hard to find out the source of it. They're also trying to get on board to get 2 of those passengers off who are ill. Cape Verde authorities have not allowed the passengers onto the island there. So the latest reports are that that ship will travel for 3 days to the Canary Islands, where those passengers can be disembarked. So those people on that ship are probably really very scared. We've had some reports from within the ship. There's one American vlogger who sent out a tearful to Instagram post saying, we're not just headlines, we have families to go to. They've been confined to their cabins, and it's horrendous for them.
What are the symptoms of the virus, and what is the treatment? Is there a vaccine? Is it curable at all?
Well, there is no vaccine and there is no specific treatment. And the problem is it can take up to 8 weeks for the incubation period. Normally not that long, but initially the symptoms of this particular strain are sort of flu-like. So you just get temperature, you feel achy, and you feel sick and tired, and muscles will start to hurt. And after that, this particular strain causes the lungs to fill with fluid. The virus causes damage to the vessels in the lungs, and that will cause lung and heart failure, and it is really urgent. There's an up to 40% fatality rate. So the treatment is, if you can get the treatment early enough and get proper care, and you haven't got underlying health conditions, you get a drip, you get breathing support, and you get intensive care, and you can make a complete recovery, but you need the treatment.
Well, goodness, horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. But I do understand the position of Cape Verde not wanting all of these passengers. We don't know if they've got the virus or not. We don't know if it can be transmitted between humans.
They can't come off the ship.
They can't come off the ship.
That's not.
Well, they could screen them. Yeah, they could screen them. There's a lot of scientists have been very angry about this, saying these people need urgent care, and if they, they're going to get off somewhere, and they could screen them test them or put them in quarantine. There are ways of doing it.
Yeah,
Other people have gone off the street. And, you know, there's a British man now in Johannesburg in intensive care. So, you know, there are ways of doing things. But I think Cape Verde's medical system, maybe they don't feel it's sophisticated enough. Or maybe they're worried about rats getting on. I don't know what they're worried about. But
I think I'd get somebody independent to check that ship for rats, though, just to be fair.
And it might make more sense, the Canary Islands being a bit more developed than Cape Verde. They might have better medical facilities in order to conduct those sorts of tests. Lucy Johnson, thanks indeed for explaining this concerning situation. I know there's a huge amount of interest in it. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Lucy. A spokesperson for the UK Foreign Office has said that we are closely monitoring reports of potential hantavirus outbreak on the cruise ship Hondas and stand ready to support British nationals if needed. We're in touch with the cruise company and local authorities.
Well, in other news now, British Second World War veterans are being honoured in the Netherlands today as the Dutch thank them for helping to liberate their country from Nazi occupation on this day in 1945.
Well, a huge parade is currently taking place with 100,000 Dutch people lining the streets to thank our British veterans. Well, Will Godley is there for us. Will Godley, what more can you tell us?
Exactly. Well, good afternoon to both of you. That parade ongoing at the moment, but the British veterans been invited now to a very, very special lunch to honour them and thank them for the role that they played back in World War II. Let's now speak to Bill Puckett. You served in World War II. What do you remember 81 years ago today when the Netherlands was liberated?
Well, I think, well, you've been out,
What are your memories back then?
Oh, well, the idea was that it seems a bit strange, trying to find what it would be, but I couldn't wait to get in, and I joined the Royal Navy when I was 17, because my father went down with a ship in 1941, and I couldn't wait to follow it through, you know, and I finished up blowing up wrecks all in the channel, and my dad's on one.
Wow.
Because he went down with a ship in 1941, and it seems strange that I should be put in the same position as he was at the time when it really got mattered, you know.
And now you're here 81 years later, you're 98 years old now. How did you feel today to experience this whole parade?
What do you mean now?
Today, yeah, with everything that's happened today.
Oh, this was unbelievable. The amount of people, you know, you imagine people being at the roadside, but not that deep and that thick and that dense as you went round, and everyone was shouting and hollering.